maybe a bit of nostalgia for some of the older viewers that were listening. Not a bad spot. It was a sort of, an analog spot in the digital world, harkening back to the '60s. And I'm not an RFK Jr. fan. I am not wowed by his statements of some of the obvious with regard to the pandemic and the drug companies. He makes some points on some issues, but I have not forgotten, at least, that he is still far left on a whole host of issues that are critically important, including energy independence. And he is a eco-supremacist goof when it comes to the coming climate apocalypse, we're told. So, but separating all that, just the actual politics of it, the choice to do that spot, the spot he presented, I thought it was actually pretty shrewd. Mary Kay in Western Springs, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, good morning, Dan. The Reese's Peanut Butter Cup, the new launch of the caramel flavor ad, their upper right-hand corner, if you can go look up this ad, on the upper right-hand corner at the end, there is a grandma lady with white hair kissing an Asian man. Did you?
I missed that one. I missed that one. No, I missed that.
Oh my God!
You got to fit it in.
I asked my family. Pardon?
Yeah, you got to fit that in. You got to make sure your spots check at least some of the identitarian boxes, right? You need that biracial couple in there.
Yeah, biracial, grandpa.
Well, biracial and and bi-generational. Sure, of course.
Yeah, for sure. If she was the cougar to beat all cougars, I'm like, that is bizarre. Dan, it was hysterical. The whole thing there was so much going on, things flashing on the screen. I didn't even stay up for the end. I went to bed and caught it.
I won't tell you how it ends. Yeah.
No, I know now. What a great game, though. And Usher killed it, I thought. It reminded me of Michael Jackson back in whenever he performed. Yeah.
I thought he was good.
To watch.
Thanks for the call, Mary Kay. I thought it was good. I mean, it's like, I don't know what people expect. Certainly was better than some of the more recent ones like Weeknd and Rihanna. No, I liked it. Also, it was nice to see some of the stars in attendance. And, of course, I'm talking about Kim Foxx. Did you see that? Kim Foxx, Cook County State's Attorney. You remember her? She was in attendance. I think tickets were going for, like the lowest price ticket was like $10,000. Wonder if that dutiful Chicago press corps will ask Kim Foxx who sponsored her for the Super Bowl. That's nice, though. I mean, it's great that the faces of our city, the faces of Chicago, they get invited to all the big events. It reminds us that we're still a deal. We're a player. BLM Brandon gets invited to the Grammys. Was unable to attend. He does have a black wife and 3 black kids at home he's trying to raise. Kim Foxx posting about the Usher Bowl, and she's all decked out in her Super Bowl regalia. I won't bother her with what's going on back at the ranch here in Chicago. That's really not her concern. Once you're not running again, you can really stick it in the eye of people who elected you twice. Remind them just how big of suckers they are, I guess. Best way I can put it. Yeah, Kim Foxx at the Super Bowl. On the flip side of that, what was nice to see is Holden Armenta. Did you see that he was at the game? That the kid that got slimed, libeled, and there's a suit pending now by the Deadspin identitarian columnist, that 9-year-old kid who had the headdress and his face painted black and red, Chiefs colors. He was at the Super Bowl. That was cool to see. And by the way, speaking of Usher too, got married again after the Super Bowl. And again, I don't know why I did it, because I've said I don't know how many times on this show, it's tough to bet against Pat Mahomes, I should say, when you're actually engaged in wagering. Tough to bet against Pat Mahomes, and he proved against last night, but I was with the 49ers anyway. I just couldn't bring myself. I thought they were the better team, but I also just can't bring myself to be part of the the Swiftie Mafia. However, the good news is the money I lost on the Super Bowl, I made up because I had Team Rough in the Puppy Bowl, and so I cleaned up with Team Rough, even though Pat Mahomes has got my money. Well, via Vegas, he's got my money, or via the Hard Rock in Hollywood, Florida. Either way. All right, some of the Super Bowl highlights, and when we come back from Mike Scott's newscast, 5:38, we'll get into what I mentioned, which is all hands on deck, Biden damage control weekend after his Thursday presser and that special counsel's report. We'll start there, 5:38. Now we check the headline.
30, and the Israeli military confirming this morning it's rescued 2 hostages from captivity in the Gaza Strip, identified as Fernando Simon Marmon and Louis Har. Fox's Trey Yingst is in Tel Aviv.
A major development overnight as Israeli special forces rescue operation to save 2 hostages. We understand that the Israelis overnight taking part in this mission in the densely populated city of Rafah just before 2 a.m. local time. On the 2nd floor of a building, Israeli soldiers engaged Hamas gunmen in a firefight before securing Fernando Marman and Luis Har. Once back in Israel, the 2 rescued hostages were flown by helicopter to the Sheba Medical Center here in Tel Aviv, where they were reunited with their families.
More than 100 hostages remain in Hamas terrorist custody. The Senate moving forward with a $95 billion aid bill for Ukraine and Israel, but its fate in the House is uncertain. King of Jordan will be at the White House today discussing the precarious situation in the Middle East with the president. It's President Biden's first meeting with King Abdullah since 3 U.S. soldiers were killed in Jordan. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin back in the hospital for an apparent bladder issue. Austin was taken to the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center after experiencing symptoms that showcased an emergent issue. Austin was hospitalized last month, you may recall, for an infection related to prostate cancer surgery. Marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum and his coach are dead after a crash in Kenya on Sunday near a high-altitude training base. Kiptum set the world record marathon time in Chicago last year, running it in 2 hours and 35 seconds. After refusing to take responsibility for his actions at trial, Mike Madigan's ex-chief of staff will face sentencing today. Federal prosecutors say Tim Mapes chose to willfully obstruct the government's sprawling investigation into the former Illinois House Speaker when he repeatedly lied to a grand jury and should be sentenced to as much as 5 years in prison. The defense would like time served. News around schools aiming to close if Illinois legislators do not reauthorize a privately funded school scholarship program has many now urging for swift action on the issue. AM 560's Greg Bishop will have more at 6 a.m. with Republican plans to try and get that stalled reauthorization restarted at the end of this month. After nearly a week of strikes, the Chicago Teachers Union and Instituto del Progreso Latino have tentatively agreed on terms to a new contract. 1 person is dead, 6 others injured after a Sunday morning crash on the city's southwest side. It happened in the Archer Heights neighborhood around 2 a.m. And a man accused of attacking multiple pedestrians on the northwest side Saturday remains in critical condition this morning. The attacks happened just before midnight along Summerdale Avenue. The 36-year-old suspect was actually struck in the head with a hammer by one of the victims who found enough strength to retaliate. The suspect being treated at Lutheran General Hospital. Bulls lost to the Magic on Saturday, and they take on the Hawks tonight. Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow night. And the news is a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. You can now enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy247.com. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
The Joe Biden administration is truly the administration for the rats, the thieves, the cartel members, the gangbangers. They're having the time of their life, and they're making more money than ever before. When a politician, salesman, or a gypsy of any kind tells you, I'll be honest with you, that's when you know they're lying. When one of these Ukrainian overlords in a $6,000 suit tells you we don't steal the money, it's pretty much a confession of him stealing the money.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
For armed or unarmed security, average isn't good enough. You deserve more. You need more.
Morrison means more.
Morrison Security. More deterrence and prevention with customized programs that fit your budget. Cost-effective, sensible solutions for all businesses and facilities.
Morrison means more.
More peace of mind, knowing your security guards are well-trained professionals with a track record of getting results and serving exactly your needs. Morrison Security personnel are constantly trained for readiness and are prepared for any given situation that can occur at a job site.
Morrison means more.
More reliability of management for quick and effective solutions at your property. Morrison Security is responsive. They are always available to you.
Morrison means more.
More awareness of any challenges you face with protecting people, property, and assets. For armed and unarmed security, don't settle for substandard or average. Security is too important. Contact them and find out how you can get more. MorrisonSecurity.com. MorrisonSecurity.com.
Morrison means more.
Guys, it's a new year. Low T Center can make it a great one. If you've been feeling tired and grumpy, have noticed lack of motivation and drive, you may have low T. Low testosterone levels can cause weight gain, loss of muscle mass, and so much more. I recommend my friends at Low T Center, where I get my levels tested and have for the past 8 years. They make it quick and easy to get your levels checked, and it's only $25. And with their on-site lab, you get your results back in about 25 minutes. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. That's lowtcenter.com. Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Protecting and growing your retirement assets can be complicated. From asset and legacy protection to retirement income and extended care, you need a plan. Mark Kohler, host of Retirement and Income Radio, heard Sundays at 11 a.m., helps retirees in or near retirement protect their accounts from market volatility. Mark can help you create lifetime guaranteed, inflation-hedged income. Call Mark today at 844-619-SAFE. That's 844-619-7233. And listen this Sunday at 11 a.m. to Retirement and Income Radio.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RADIO for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's promo code RADIO.
537. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. We'll start on the Stevenson, where brake lights are already flashing. Ashland into the Ryan merge. One other problem spot, Jane Addams, the toll road, I-90 westbound, right at Lee. A right lane is blocked with an accident. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. In our AM 560 Weather Center, sunny and 45 today, clear and 29 overnight. Tomorrow, clouds and sunshine with a high of 39. Skies are clear, 27 at O'Hare, 28 Midway, 22 in Aurora, and 31 along Chicago's lakefront. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, but it's just Dan today. No Amy. She's back tomorrow from her overseas adventure. We were talking a little bit about the Super Bowl. I'm just thinking through more of the commercials, what didn't work and what did work, at least for me. And we'll take your calls on it, but I do want to get to the Biden damage control weekend. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. The Ben Affleck, J-Lo, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, Dunkin' Donuts ad, painful. Awful. The flip side, the Donald Faison, Zach Braff, Jason Momoa commercial for T-Mobile with the What a Feeling from Flashdance, and then it ends with Jennifer Beals. That was cool. I mean, I always liked Braff and Faison because they were so good together in Scrubs. But that was a good spot. I'm just trying to think it through. So we got RFK Jr. That was interesting from a political perspective. You got that Braff, Faison, Momoa spot, Beals. I guess you got to include her too, and then the walk-in spot. Those are some of my key takeaways on the much debated Super Bowl commercials topic. All right. Anyway, on to more important things. By the way, again, great to see Kim Foxx out at the big game. State's Attorney, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, because, I mean, she's basically got that office running on autopilot. So it's nice to see her get some time away during the winter. All hands on deck. Full Biden damage control duty this weekend, starting on Friday with, of course, White House spokeswoman Karine Jean-Pierre responding to one of the reporters that Biden got short with on Thursday evening during his press conference. That would be, of course, Peter Doocy. This was their exchange. So who's helping this guy? Since, as Robert Hur, the special prosecutor in the classified docs case, said, yeah, basically he's an elderly man not fit to stand trial, but, of course, that I reserve comment on whether or not he's fit to run a country. So if he's not up to the task, then, who else is helping him along?
Listen, I have been privileged and proud.
No, that's not it.
To serve as Vice
Hold on.
President.
We'll get to you, Madam Vice President. Hold on.
If the special counsel says President Biden has got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
How can he be trusted with the nuclear codes if I get that you're saying that nobody in the building would say that he's got an issue with his memory, but just the little part of what we get to see, he's made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake on camera this week.
So I'm going to be very clear here. The reality is that report, that part of the report, does not live in reality. It just doesn't.
So the special counsel is lying about the president's memory.
It was gratuitous. You heard from Ian Sams, my colleague. It is unacceptable, and it does not live in reality. That is just the facts. And look, it is a closed case. That is what the special counsel said. And what matters is that the president in the last 3 years has delivered on the economy, has delivered on health care, has turned this country around after the last president left us with an economy that was in a tailspin. That's what we were dealing with. If you think about the world leaders.
Yeah, let's think about them. Doesn't live in reality. And then this was the pivot, ham-handed as it was by all of the mouthpieces for the administration. Let's talk about all that he's done. I know what he does remember. He remembers how to create infrastructure jobs. I mean, it's just so schlocky. Okay, let me get that hook out of my mouth. But anyway, yeah, he doesn't live in reality. That report does not live in reality. Not the reality KJP knows. Not the reality that a dutiful wife Jill knows. I know that. Not the reality that professional fluffer Kamala Harris knows. Gavin Newsom. A lot of professional fluffers around this administration. It's funny because upwards of 80% of Americans also don't live in reality, according to KJP, because they have serious questions about the big guy's mental fitness for the big job. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Another aspect of the damage control, if you caught any of it, was sort of the finger wagging in the direction of Special Counsel Robert Hur. You're not supposed to say these things out loud. I mean, everybody who's paid any attention knows this. It's manifested when Biden is wandering out in the public. But you're not supposed to say it. It's just an odd criticism. It's basically, yes, there was a sort of, it's not true. Look at all he's accomplished kind of thing. It's pretty weak tea. But then there's the, how dare you say that? Sort of what Joe Biden himself said. How dare he say that I didn't remember the date of my son's death, and so on and so forth. How dare you? You're not supposed to say out loud what is observably true.
Listen, I have been privileged and proud to serve as Vice President of the United States with Joe Biden as President of the United States. And what I saw of that report last night, I believe is, as a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
Gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate. Well, what's inaccurate? And then they'll give you the whole spiel about I'm around this guy and he is a dizzying intellect who's at the top of his game. The over-the-top propaganda, basically. And then the other piece of it is, how dare you, sir? Inappropriate and gratuitous. Well, is it really? I mean, first of all, it's not inappropriate, really, for him to comment on the case, to provide this rationale for the first reason that Robert Hur has to protect his own backside. When he comes to this decision not to charge, he has to have an explanation. And by the way, the special prosecutor, the directive to the federal regulations that are instructive to a special prosecutor, shall provide the Attorney General with a confidential report explaining the prosecution or declination decisions reached. You can't just give a decision, you have to give a why. And what was his why? Hers why? It was, doddering old man, that a jury would find particularly sympathetic and probably couldn't get a conviction. That was basically it. So there's his rationale. And for those that are trying to scapegoat Robert Hur, that's some Republican operative. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. This is political point scoring, like Robert Hur is some Republican flack. Andrew Weissman, for example, the point person for Mueller during the Russian collusion investigation, that special prosecution operation. The Wall Street Journal reminds us Weissman's report, well, Mueller's report, but it was pretty clear that Mueller wasn't mentally fit for that job either. We've been to this place before. The evidence we obtained about the president's actions, this is on Trump, Russian collusion. The evidence we obtained about the president's actions and intents presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. Sort of a backhanded way to say we got nothing. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. So all of that is to say what? Because Weissman is running around saying you either put up or shut up. You either charge him or you decline to charge him, but you don't give any context. In fact, you do give context. You do give a rationale. And in fact, Andrew Weissman himself gave a rationale. But, right, hypocrisy is the tribute that Vice pays to virtue in this town that we're talking about, this toddling town called D.C. All right, so back to Kamala Harris. So that's the one aspect of it. Gratuitous, you're not supposed to say observably true things out loud. And then there's this guy is got complete control of these situations, and in every crisis moment, you wouldn't believe how he performs, the handle he has on things, the insight. And of course, everything is worked out swimmingly during this administration, perhaps minus the Afghanistan withdrawal, a few other things. Anyway, let me take you back to October 7th. Let's walk down memory lane with Vice President Reparation H.
October 7th, Israel experienced a horrific attack, and I will tell you We got the calls, the president and myself, in the hours after that occurred. It was an intense moment for the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America, and I was in almost every meeting with the president in the hours and days that followed. Countless hours with the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, the heads of our intelligence community, and the president was in front of and on top of it all, asking questions and requiring that America's military and intelligence community and diplomatic community would figure out and know how many people were dead, how many are Americans, how many hostages, is the situation stable? He was in front of it all, coordinating and directing leaders who are in charge of America's national security, not to mention our allies around the globe. For days, and up until now, months. So the way that the president's demeanor in that report was characterized could not be more wrong on the facts and clearly politically motivated, gratuitous. And so I will say that when it comes to the role and responsibility of a prosecutor in a situation like that, we should expect that there would be a higher level of integrity than what we saw. Thank you.
Politically motivated, lack of integrity, gratuitous. He is a Trump MAGA cultist. I smell a political rat, said our very own Governor Jellybelly. It was extremely unfair for a former President Trump appointee originally to the DOJ to offer his opinions about the mental acuity or age of the President of the United States. No, of course. So it's unfair for the American voter to do so as well then, Jellybelly? Who gets to comment on it? The only thing that surprised me about the damage control duty this weekend is that you didn't have one of the president's doctors trotted out there to say, yeah, you know, he's 80 years old. He has some spells like anybody does. You forget a name, you forget a place. But in terms of his overall mental fitness, his ability to process information and make cogent decisions, he is perfectly up to the job. I was waiting for that clean bill of health letter or statement or representative from the president's medical team to exonerate him, because that's the exoneration he actually needs, isn't it? It has very little to do with the classified documents case and much more to do with the fact that, as I said, 80% of the American public is no longer going to not believe their lying eyes, which is what all these flacks on damage control duty are hoping they can achieve. If you thought Kamala Harris was obsequious, well, you were right. But get a load of Mayorkas. Little Allie Mayorkas on Meet the Press on damage control duty for the big guy. Listen to this.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Yeah. Man, the most difficult part. He's just such a towering intellect. That's the reputation Joe Biden's always had in D.C. Towering intellect, so up on the details. Creative, asymmetrical thinker. Incubator of deep policy thoughts. Philosopher king. Joe Biden has never fit any of these descriptions at any time in his life. But now, after the he's not fit to stand trial report, we're supposed to believe that he does. Yeah. The toughest part of preparing for a meeting with Joe Biden is getting him to show up to the right place, I suspect. Scott and Aurora, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hey, I just wanted to say maybe Kamala Harris is actually right. Maybe we, the people, are wrong. maybe Joe Biden really is in charge of the country, and that's why it's a complete dumpster fire.
Thanks, Scott. Bill, Northwest Side.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, Peter Ducey needs to ask KJP, why did Merrick Garland appoint a special prosecutor that would sabotage the president? Like, why did he do that?
Right. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Bill. Yeah, exactly. What is Merrick Garland a enemy inside the perimeter? He's appointing these awful MAGA cultists to investigate the president. It's funny. I didn't hear a lot of caterwauling about Robert Hur throughout this very below the fold process. I mean, did anybody even remember there was a special prosecution going on, a special look into bias handling classified documents? I remember a couple months ago talking to Brett Baer about it before the first of the year. Like, has anybody heard from Robert Hur? Is he still with us? Has he abdicated somewhere? We heard nothing about this. And we find out that Biden willingly, all this, we volunteered for this, and I did a 5 hours worth of Q&A with her, and so on. So it's funny, you didn't complain about it at the time. You're complaining about it now. So it wasn't unfair at the time, but it's unfair now because of the conclusions he drew. Another gentleman on damage control duty, and boy, the profile on some of these Biden flacks. Mitch Landrieu, of course, was the Mary was the governor during Katrina. Those two did a bang-up job, really turning New Orleans around. That's a hell of a city. Highest murder per capita rate in the country, New Orleans. But Mitch Landrieu is here as Biden's campaign co-chairman to lecture us about Biden's health. Let me tell you what Biden remembers, this spin. I mean, it is just so clunky. But okay, you do you, Mitch.
You know what Joe Biden remembers? He remembers how to build 46,000 infrastructure projects. He remembers how to build one of the strongest economies in the world. He remembers how to make sure that the unemployment rate stays as low as it has for 50 years and to create 800,000 jobs. And that is why, let me just finish, that is why the president says, watch me. And the president has demonstrated an incredible amount of accomplishment in a few short years that outpace anything that Donald Trump has ever done, including creating 15 million jobs.
I thought it was 800,000 jobs, now it's 15 million. It doesn't matter. I get it. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. Watch me. Right, Mitch. Again, here's the problem. It's just a political problem. You can say the same thing that KJP said. It is not reality-based. Fine. Whatever. Okay. 80% of the public has watched him, and they have serious questions about his mental fitness for the job. Forgetting all the policy discussions and everything else. Mental fitness. Sort of a basic threshold clearer that if you can't clear it, you're not going to be in the Oval Office. Steve and Roselle.
Yeah, I'd like to say good morning, guys. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall, and all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty back together again.
They're trying. Thanks for the call, Steve. Mac and the 219.
Yeah, hey, if Joe's so sharp, why wasn't he on the morning show? And if these people are touting his praises, you know what they sound like? They sound like the guy who says 20 times in a row, I love my wife. And then you find out 3 days later, he's either banging the babysitter or the neighbor.
Okay, Mac. George in Naperville.
Yeah, Dan, Biden is prepared as well as El Cid was in his last battle.
All right, George. Kip in Stillman Valley.
Yeah, Ray, listen, I think it worked real well with what Lou put in his report, and that's why they let it go out, because it is a distraction on his mental state. Instead of the fact that I haven't heard even on your show this morning or too much over the Sunday shows, and that is that President Biden at the time was not president when he had those classified.
I understand. Thanks for the call, Kip. Look, we've been through that all before. We've been through all of it before. I mean, we can go through it again. I'm aware he wasn't vice president, or he wasn't the president. He didn't have the same privilege. He was. Some of this goes back to when he was a senator. I know we've been through it all before. But that's actually not the most pressing issue right now, when you have the American public saying he's not fit for the job, when he is otherwise not going to be prosecuted per the recommendation from her. All right, coming up at 6:06, Boston is doing what Naperville is unwilling to do. It is 9 o'clock, AM 560, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The defense secretary is back in the hospital. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, and Lloyd Austin is in critical care at the Walter Reed Medical Center. Fox's Brooke Singman reports.
At this time, it is not clear how long Secretary Austin will remain hospitalized. The current bladder issue is not expected to change his anticipated full recovery. His cancer prognosis remains excellent. Now, Austin was readmitted to the hospital earlier in the day yesterday and has temporarily transferred his powers to his deputy, Kathleen Hicks.
Austin making all this public is different from last month, when he didn't even tell the president he was hospitalized with complications from prostate cancer surgery, which he's apologized for. Israel has rescued 2 hostages in Gaza.
Once back in Israel, the 2 rescued hostages were flown by helicopter to the Sheba Medical Center here in Tel Aviv, where they were reunited with their families. The Israeli air support for this mission included fighter jets and attack helicopters that targeted positions across Rafah. Health authorities in Gaza say more than 67 Palestinians were killed in the strikes. Currently, there are more than 1 million Gazans sheltering in Rafah.
Fox's Trey Youngs. Hamas still holding more than 100 hostages kidnapped in the October terror attack that triggered the war. The House plans to vote again tomorrow, trying for a second time to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Republican Congressman Byron Donalds tells Fox
he's lied to the American people. Our southern border is not secure.
But Mayorkas tells NBC's Meet the Press,
we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system.
The Chiefs repeat as the champs.
You gotta fight for your right.
Travis Kelce, after winning the Super Bowl again.
Believe it, baby. I'll see y'all next year.
Kansas City beat San Francisco 25-22 in overtime on CBS. Mecole Hardman caught the game-winning touchdown.
Man, it feels great. I'm telling you, I blacked out when I caught the ball, though. So, but it feels awesome.
The quarterback who threw it to him, Patrick Mahomes, was Super Bowl MVP again for the 3rd time in 5 years. America's listening to Fox News.
26 degrees in Chicago. It's 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptoum and his coach are dead after a car crash in Kenya Sunday. Kiptoum was in western Kenya near a high-altitude training base. Kiptoum set the world record marathon time in the Chicago Marathon last year, 2 hours and 35 seconds. He was 24. After refusing to take responsibility for his actions at trial, Mike Madigan's ex-chief of staff faces sentencing today. Federal prosecutors say Tim Mapes chose to willfully obstruct the government's sprawling investigation into the former Illinois House Speaker and should be sentenced to as much as 5 years in prison. Dozens of Indiana National Guard members are heading to the southern border with Mexico. Governor Eric Holcomb announcing over the weekend that 50 Indiana National Guard soldiers will spend 10 months helping with border security. News around schools now aiming to close if Illinois legislators do not reauthorize a privately funded school choice scholarship program, as some in Springfield now urging for swift action. AM 560's Greg Bishop reports from Springfield.
Illinois' Invest in Kids School Choice Scholarship Program provided private donors a 75% Illinois income tax credit. The program never saw the full investment potential, but has given nearly 41,000 to a school of their family's choosing since 2018. The program expired at the end of 2023 after legislators failed to approve an extension. Thursday, before the House adjourned until later this month, Geneva Republican State Representative Dan Ugasti said the stories of schools preparing to close and the impact on students and families should spur action to reinstate the program.
But if these schools have to close because the credit isn't there, then guess what, folks? We've just impacted more than those 9,500 kids who are betting their futures on this type of education.
Legislators return February 20th. I'm Greg Bishop.
The Bulls were unable to get it done over the weekend, losing in overtime against Orlando. They visit the Hawks later on tonight, while the Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow. Another weekend college basketball action, Loyola beat George Washington. Bradley lost to Drake. Illinois State was edged by SIU, and UIC snuck past Northern Iowa. The news, a service of the AM 560 store. T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk doesn't see work from the RNC.
The RNC and the regime, they're lazy and complacent. They don't want to be excellent. They don't want to flourish. They don't want to be great. And that culture is all throughout the RNC. They just are kind of okay with being mediocre. They're not trying to be the best version of themselves. They're not hustling. There's a lot of people that just want to work in politics.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Baby, it's cold outside, and we've got the perfect cure for those winter blues. Grab your loved ones and settle in this evening with a relaxing jigsaw puzzle from Heart Puzzles, made right here in the Midwest. Their vast assortment includes a variety of themes. Go retro and cool with the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Revisit past trips with the National Parks Collection. Gaze at the wonders of space with the Hubble and Webb Deep Space Telescopes puzzles. Feel nostalgic with the immensely popular Boomers favorites. What's more is that a piece of every puzzle sale automatically goes to charity, so you'll be supporting their mission of giving back to veterans, funding medical research, and preserving our national parks. Order now and get 20% off by using promo code AM560. Order 2 puzzles and get free shipping and a tote bag. Order 3 puzzles and they'll even include a puzzle mat. Again, use promo code AM560. Their popular designs often sell out, so visit them today at heartpuzzles.com. That's HART puzzles.com.
If you have a bank account, pay attention. The U.S. banking system is once again under extreme stress, but there is an easy way to protect yourself. Gold. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your family's financial future. As a thank you for opening a qualified account, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Just use the promo code GOLD. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Hello, America. It's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you don't have Consumer Cellular yet, now is the perfect time to switch and save. For a limited time, new customers can get wireless service for as low as $15 a month for your first year. Yep, the same exact nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for $15 a month for an entire year. What are you waiting for? Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and use code RADIO15.
See consumercellular.com/firstyear15 for promotional details.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I've been a clinical psychologist since 1991. I was licensed, and I love being a clinical psychologist because I like helping people. I tell people that Balance of Nature is a wonderful supplement because I truly trust in the product. I feel great, and because I feel great, I'm able to do everything that I want to do. I really love taking Balance of Nature.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
6:08, let's get an update on the roads this morning. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Not a ton of problems out there, however. One has popped up on the outbound Stevenson this morning. On the outbound off-ramp to Harlem Avenue, there is an accident blocking that exit ramp this morning. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now, your official Chicagoland weather forecast in our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Here's our meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Lots of sunshine today, the high at 45. It'll be clear tonight, low 29. Intervals of clouds and sun for tomorrow, the high 39. And then clouds and breaks of sun, a little bit warmer Wednesday, the high 47. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Clear skies all the way around. 26 O'Hare, 28 Midway, 20 in Aurora, 29 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and, just Dan. Amy traveling back from Europe. She'll be back in tomorrow. Hey, Naperville, Downers Grove, Glen Ellen, Hinsdale, River Forest, Oak Park, Wilmette, Glencoe, Highland Park. Why can't you be a little bit more like Boston? We're getting shown up by Boston. In the competition to be America's most welcoming city, I'm sorry to say that Chicago and Chicagoland are falling behind because they've already crossed the Rubicon. They don't need a city councilman to propose a sign-up list. Boston residents are proactive. I'm sure after they got done with that Dunkin' Donuts commercial, Affleck and Damon were on their way back to open their homes to migrants. Boston residents answering the clarion call from Governor Healy of Massachusetts, from Mayor Wu of Boston, from Boston City Councilman Julia Mejia.
At Wellesley, Brookline, cities and towns that have so much more resources than the city of Boston.
Boston City Councilwoman Julia Mejia thinks more migrants can be placed outside of Boston.
I think everybody needs to start opening up their doors because this is a shared responsibility.
Exactly. Shared responsibility. That was the NBC affiliate there in Boston reporting. Doesn't Boston City Council human Julia Mejia have it right? It's a shared responsibility. Everyone needs to start opening up their doors. I'm talking to you, Naperville. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. And she's not just talking in abstractions. This is happening. Meet the Stokeses. Colin and Julia Stokes of Brookline, Massachusetts. The CBS affiliate reporting.
Colin and Jessica Stokes called the state to sign up to be a host family. It took less than an hour for the displaced migrants to be dropped off at their door.
I gotta get sheets on the bed. How many people are coming? Right. Where are they from? What ages? We really knew nothing.
The need is so clearly overwhelming.
The family of four who didn't want to go on camera had been sleeping at Logan Airport. The parents and two kids journeyed from Chile to Texas, then Massachusetts, and there are so many stories like it.
It boggles the mind that there are so many hundreds of those stories.
Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions. I think we're well into the multiples at this point. Aren't you ashamed? Aren't you properly shamed by the Stokeses, by Councilwoman Mejia in Boston? What are we doing here? Waiting for the state waiting for our community to secure a couple $1 million from the state, like Oak Park, to set up camps in churches or community facilities? Where's that sort of private initiative like the Stokes family in Brookline, Massachusetts is exhibiting? You certainly hear the private rap. You hear the initiative to talk and talk and talk. And then Naperville City Council last week, remember? I don't want to take any migrants in. I'm not about that, but I should be happy to participate in a roundtable to talk about the issue. I'd be happy to have, government agencies and government vendors come in and put these people, the stranger that we're supposed to welcome, in big group settings. I'm not equipped to take care of another human being. Are you a father? Sure. But I'm not equipped. I don't know how to host another human being. Oh, well, the Stokes family in Brookline does. So what skills do they have that you don't there? Particularly as civilized, as enlightened as the leadership of these communities is. With their signs about being neighbor strong, where hate has no home. Huh. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. Now, I'm not saying that it's not replete with danger, but I mean, I'm talking about people who spend their lives eradicating hate. These intrepid social justice warriors at the Starbucks in downtown Hinsdale. They're not going to be deterred by a little bit of risk. This is their life's calling. These are serious people with a real commitment to build a better America. I just wonder where they are. I mean, I know they're at the microphone at a city council meeting, and I know they're at the downtown eateries and coffee shops. But I mean, in this moment, maybe there's a sign campaign there. Why will you answer the Stokes' challenge? Let's start to name names. The people that are stepping up, volunteering, like the Stokeses of Brookline, Massachusetts. Where are our Stokeses in Chicago, I wonder? Probably just doing so privately. Don't want to make a big spectacle of themselves. I highly doubt that. That's not exactly their MO, is it? I know there's problems, But again, this moment, these are the people we most care about in America, people who are here illegally. That's not me saying it. That's a better of mine. That's somebody that the denizens of those communities I mentioned and so many more in Chicagoland have great respect for. The kind of regard that is owed a Brandon Johnson, a Kim Foxx, a J.B. Pritzker, a Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut, the lead negotiator for the Dem Socialists on that Senate immigration bill that went down in flames. Listen to what he said over the weekend talking to Rachel Maddow, doppelganger, and Andy Shaw, son-in-law, Chris Hayes, about the people whom they most care about. Said it straight away.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
The undocumented Americans that are in this country. They're undocumented, but they're Americans? So, right, so citizenship doesn't matter. Yeah, we kind of knew that, but it's nice for you to confirm it. The people we care about most are the people in this country who are undocumented, which is a euphemism for illegal, generally speaking. Yeah, no, I got it. And also, importantly there, the last 30 years, you're right, we've tried to get path to citizenship for people here illegally. That's been our goal, and we're trying to give as little as we can give on border security and on public safety, by extension, in order to get the people we care about most their citizenship. So we in public office can be the people they care about most when it comes time to vote. Pretty straightforward. Paul and Carrie are on Chicago's Morning Answer.
So I'm assuming when you mention this family that they're from Chile, Mexico, because I'm not aware of a country that borders Mexico that's named Chile, and according to our own immigration policies, would they not have to stop all the seats either in Central America, Mexico, but they, strangely enough, crossed all those terrains and came to United States.
Well, if they're in Chile, well, there's
immigration policy.
Well, there's no remain in Mexico policy. So yeah, you can. I mean, they're obviously people are coming from the world over. They're not being forced to safe third. There's no safe third country policy in effect in this administration. There's no remain in Mexico, right?
But of course, I thought maybe there was a Chile, Mexico. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's Thanks for the call, Paul. Yeah, it's it borders Gaza, as I understand it, from the president. Mm-hmm. Again, you heard on Mike Scott's newscast, too, that Ali Mayorkas, after he was done polishing Biden's apple, the greatest intellect in Western civilization, how difficult it is to prepare for a meeting for Joe Biden. Right, because I have to keep reintroducing myself throughout the meeting. That's why it's difficult to prepare for a meeting with the big guy. But anyway, Mayorkas, after he was done with that bit of business, he went on to talk about the responsibility for border security, which all of a sudden is a crisis. The situation at the border is now a crisis. It wasn't a crisis. We have secured the border. This was Mayorkas's line for much of the last 3 years up until recently. But now it absolutely is a crisis, and it is none of our doing, and we have no responsibility to address it.
Well, we don't bear responsibility for a broken system, and we're doing a tremendous amount within that broken system. But fundamentally, Congress is the only one who can fix it. There is no question that we have a broken system. There is no question that we have a challenge, a crisis at the border. And there is no question that Congress needs to fix it. And we're doing everything we can within that broken system, short of legislation, to address what is not just a challenge for the United States, but one throughout our region.
Yeah, good luck with that line of argumentation. Good luck spinning out of this. I mean, I don't know which is going to be least effective. Trying to convince the 80% of the American people who see with their own eyes the mental fitness of the president, that he is this, perspicacious visionary that you keep describing him to be, or forget everything we told you. Congress has failed to fix the border, and that's the problem. It's the Republicans on the Hill. It's their fault. Those intractable MAGA cultists in the House. It's their fault. Good luck with that. And then you have these other complications too. This ongoing these ongoing crimes that are being this ongoing problem of crimes being committed by people in this country illegally. For example, in New York City again, a migrant from Venezuela, 15 years old, arrested after a day-long manhunt. He was characterized by the chief of detectives for the NYPD as a very, very violent suspect who recklessly fired a .45 caliber handgun in a crowded area in New York City, winging a female tourist. And then when he was taken into custody, he cried. So I don't know what we're supposed to do with that, if that's supposed to somehow be a mitigating circumstance. Anyway, firing at a security guard who confiscated a coat he and two friends tried to steal from a sporting goods store at West 42nd and Broadway. The bullet that he fired at the security guard missed the guard and hit a 38-year-old Brazilian tourist waiting in line to buy a pair of sneakers. And so this is sort of consistent. So let's see, a person in this country legally who's engaged in one criminal act commits another criminal act when he opens fire, and the victim is a tourist who is in this country legally and following the law, trying to do something simple like buy a pair of sneakers. And we're supposed to put all our energy and effort into this poor, downtrodden 15-year-old Venezuelan who came here to steal and shoot people who prevented him, tried to shoot people who tried to prevent him from stealing. Mm-hmm. And you're not supposed to distinguish between any of these individuals who have entered this country. That is gauche and pimply and xenophobic and racist and all those things. That's what they're selling. Okay. No, good luck. Good luck selling it. Just another example. These cases have been legion for a long time, but they're coming in waves now. And a person here illegally with 5 deportations arrested in Texas for killing a 10-year-old Texas boy. He's a Mexican national. He hit the boy while crossing the street and then fled. The boy was walking home from school. Shouldn't have been in this country. 10-year-old boy in Texas shouldn't be dead. Oh, well. You're going to break a few eggs when you're trying to be a welcoming country. Welcoming city, sanctuary state. Okay. Tim in Woodstock, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Morning, Dan. Every time I kind of replayed that clip that you had last week of the Naperville resident who went through training to bring a migrant family into his home, but then he had an awakening. And I guess I'm kind of interpreting it for him that he realized actually that would be like me taking responsibility for the chaos that I helped create by voting for sentimental barbarians. That's really what he was saying, although he tried to pass it off as being more sensitive to building shelters with access to lawyers and culturally relevant food and understanding their religion. It's a good example of what the state does. The state and people who vote for these people, they create the chaos, they help create it, and then the solution has to come from the same people who will come up with nonsense solutions for it.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Tim. Well, it's even worse than that. They create the chaos, then they sort of standardize it and normalize it. I mean, there's no by any means necessary. So let's get them in, and then we'll tell the stories of the downtrodden migrants searching for a better life. We'll ignore the stories of predation by people we've allowed into this country, the threats that are posed, the people that are hurt or worse. We'll finance this while decrying the hard-heartedness of anybody who doesn't want to finance it. I mean, we'll finance it into the billions and billions of dollars while not providing resources and services to actual tax-paying American citizens. Everything going on in New York, and then I saw the story in the Post over the weekend that New York public housing residents are waiting like 65 days for even minor fixes to their units. Oh, wait, are these families living in subsidized housing in New York, are they the downtrodden? Isn't that why we have welfare state programs like subsidized housing? And and this is against the backdrop of a big scandal. There was like the biggest raid in FBI history last week when some 6 New York State Public Housing Authority employees were arrested for participating in a multi-million-dollar, allegedly participating, of course, in a multi-million-dollar bribe scheme with vendors to the housing authority. And then all this is, millions of people, not yet, hundreds of thousands of people in New York, but millions of dollars, billions of dollars, New York City, New York State, millions of dollars in welfare programs, transfer payments, billions of dollars in health care coverage and the like, the housing. And then those downtrodden American citizens who ostensibly need the safety net and a a hand up, as it were. Not saying that I'm supporting these welfare programs, but I mean, let's work the logic of the left. You have these programs for American citizens. You support them? Of course I support them. Really. And so tell me what's going on in the housing authority. The corruption, the lack of services for residents. Meanwhile, over here, for non-citizens, mainly in this country illegally, what do you have? And for those who commit crimes, what do? Release them? Like you did with the gang that beat up those 2 cops? I mean, if you think that all of this going on in places, like, if the left does, all this going on in places like New York, and your line is going to be Republicans in Congress have failed to fix the broken system, good luck selling that. You'll notice one thing of late, that the left is not chastened. They haven't been shamed. They're incorrigible. But they have gotten a lot more silent. The only time they rear their head is when they feel compelled to, because they've been backed into a corner like they were in Naperville and properly publicly humiliated. And so they feel like, they can't help themselves but come out and say that's not nice and that's not finding common ground and being a solutionist and all the other sophistry that was on display at that city council meeting from a handful of Naperville residents that are representative of a lot more than a handful that we brought you last week. But they're a lot quieter than they've been lately, aren't they? Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
You're listening to Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Retirement outlook.
If your retirement account is mostly stocks or bonds, listen closely. The future of your savings may be more uncertain than ever before. Hi, I'm Paul Stone, CEO of Colonial Metals. The sad truth is, our government continues to eat away at our freedoms and security. In economic times like these, run around the flagpole by lunatics in Washington, I look to the most trusted store of wealth in human history, physical gold and silver that you own. At Colonial Metals, we specialize in helping folks with IRAs and 401ks and other retirement accounts move their savings into physical gold and silver. If you'd like a free gold investment kit, give us a call today at 820-800-8000. My team is standing by, ready to rush a free gold investment kit to you. You may also qualify for $7,500 in free silver and a free safe. Call 820-800-8000 now. That's 820-800-8000.
Colonial Metals is not a financial advisor. Consult with your advisor before investing.
That's 820-800-8000.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up at 6:36, we'll check in with Stephen Bucci from the Heritage Foundation, get his distillation of some of what Putin had to say in his Tucker Carlson sit-down last week, and as well as a reaction to some of former President Trump's recent comments about NATO. That's all at 6:36. Now we check the news with Mike Scott.
6:32 is our time in Chicago on AM 560, The Answer. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas acknowledges the U.S. immigration system is broken, but says it's up to Congress to pass legislation to get it fixed. Speaking on NBC's Meet the Press, Mayorkas claiming Republicans didn't even read what was in the bipartisan Senate border bill before striking it down. House Republicans, meantime, accuse Mayorkas of breaking the law in his handling on the southern border. Republican Congressman James Comer on Fox.
I believe that Scalise will return this week and agenda, so hopefully we'll get that job done and finally start to hold someone in this administration accountable for what's going on at the southern border.
Comer thinking that there will be an impeachment vote this week. It comes after DHS Secretary Mayorkas narrowly survived his first vote last week. A new poll shows most Americans feel President Biden is showing his age while serving in office. Fox's Kevin Uretsky has details.
President Biden reacted angrily to the description, saying there's nothing wrong with his memory. However, Republicans claim the reports simply confirm what many already know. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton on Fox News Sunday talking about the classified documents found in the president's possession.
President Biden's memory is failing, not just now, but 7 years ago when he couldn't remember when he talked to his ghostwriter about whether his material was classified.
On ABC's This Week, Democratic Delaware Senator Chris Coons said the president is sharp and that all politicians make public mistakes.
Speaker Johnson of the House just confused Iran and Israel. He said, we are beginning to send aid to Iran. Donald Trump confused Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
Kansas City Chiefs are officially a dynasty of sorts after becoming back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Head coach Andy Reid.
Man, I don't know, but I'm going to celebrate it with these people right here, man. Hey, on 3, 1, 2, 3. How about those Chiefs?
Chiefs defend their title, coming back in OT to beat San Francisco 25-22. Marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum and his coach are dead after a car crash in western Kenya. Kiptum set the world record for the marathon here in Chicago last year, running it in 2 hours and 35 seconds. He was 24. Dozens of Indiana National Guard members are heading to the southern border with Mexico. Governor Eric Holcomb announcing that 50 Indiana National Guard soldiers will spend 10 months supporting the Texas National Guard with border security. And after nearly a week of strikes, Chicago Teachers Union members and the Instituto del Progreso Latino have tentatively agreed on terms to a new contract, sending teachers back into the classroom today. Bulls were unable to get it done over the weekend in a loss against Orlando. They visit Atlanta tonight. Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow night. The News is a service of Quick Delivery Service. Visit quickdelivery.com when you need same-day delivery of your routes. Ground delivery when you need it from safe, licensed professionals. Go to quickdelivery.com now to schedule your delivery. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dr. Sebastian Gorka puts it simply.
3 of our servicemen are dead thanks to an Iranian drone strike, and 40 are in hospital. This is the cost, the real cost in terms of human life, of having people who hate America running America. It's really that simple.
America First with Dr. Sebastian Gorka. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
50 years of precision tooling. Now that's a lot of job shop work and custom parts. And it's why Bruscher Machining is the go-to CNC turning and machining company in Chicagoland. If you have a custom project, whether it's a single prototype or a short-run production of a few thousand pieces, give them a call today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661. Or visit BruscherMachining.com. That's BRUCHER Machining.com. They also provide heat treating, balancing, plating, and surface coating, welding, and fabrication, plus project management. Bruscher Machining guarantees to consistently deliver high-quality parts and solutions on time for reasonable prices. Yeah, everyone says that, but the proof is in the tooling. Stop by to meet their team of seasoned pros and tour the facility located in West Chicago. To learn more about how CNC machining can turn your tough project into an operational reality, contact Bruscher Machining today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661.
This is Seth Leibson from 960thepatriot.com for townhall.com. The special counsel's report constitutes a true constitutional crisis. And who knew the reasons for not indicting Joe Biden would be more important than the conclusion that he should not be indicted. As the federal prosecutors found and wrote, Joe Biden did not remember when he was vice president, forgetting on the first day of the interview when his term ended, asking if it was in 2013 when he stopped being vice president, and forgetting when his term began, asking in 2009 whether he was vice president. He did not remember, even within several years, when his son Beau died. This report from federal prosecutors goes on to say Joe Biden has, quote, diminished faculties and faulty memory. For all the blather about the constitutional crisis we were supposedly in because of Donald Trump in 2017, 2018, 2019, and 2020, let me assure you, we have a real constitutional crisis now. I'm Seth Leibson.
QC Kinetics patient Robert Patterson, a veteran and business owner, struggled at work and in the gym with chronic agonizing shoulder pain.
Those injuries just continue to nag, and if you don't treat them, they just get worse. And I just kind of abused my body for a long time, and it finally had said enough is enough.
That's okay, because QC Kinetics tells your pain, hey, enough is enough. Their regenerative treatments bring you relief by helping restore and repair damaged tissue with no drugs, no downtime, and best of all, no surgery.
I was able to exceed the goals that I had previously attained in the gym. It was absolutely worth its weight in gold, so I could continue to live life without limitation.
Ready to get lasting relief from your joint pain? Call QC Kinetics to learn more about how natural biologic treatments can get you lasting results. Call now. It's a free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
Don't let a cold, sinus infection, or allergies ruin your day. Breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier with Navage. Visit Navage.com, Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, or a store near you.
6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. The Kennedy right now building 25 minutes from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stop-and-go traffic on the outbound Ike due to an earlier accident between East Avenue and Des Plaines Avenue. Problems on the Dan Ryan South End between 87th and 71st. Just typical morning heavies there, 17 into the Burn Circle interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our QC Kinetics Weather Center, sunny and 45 today, clear and 29 overnight. Skies are clear, 26 at O'Hare, 27 at Midway, 19 in Aurora, 22 in Waukegan, and 29 along Chicago's lakefront. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and Amy will be back tomorrow. So we poured over a lot of the Tucker Carlson-Putin interview on Friday. Of course, it was released Thursday night. One topic we didn't get to that much on Friday that I do want to get to with our next guest is the exchange that Tucker Carlson and Putin had on the matter of the Nord Stream pipeline and who is the saboteur. We don't have any official rulings. Sweden, Germany, Denmark have investigations ongoing, but it's sort of like cocaine in the White House. Anything that's sensitive, sadly, the origins of COVID, anything that's sensitive, you can count on sort of the establishment, whether domestically or globally, to essentially run out the clock. An exhaustive investigation that everybody has forgotten about, can't even remember exactly the circumstances under which the event occurred, and we, after a thorough effort, we can't come to any sort of conclusion about who the responsible party is. The Dobbs opinion leak at the Supreme Court, same sort of thing. I think the same people are in charge of all of these investigations. All right, so take a listen to the exchange on Nord Stream.
Who blew up Nord Stream?
You for sure.
I was busy that day. Nate, do you have I did not blow up Nord Stream. Thank you, though.
У вас лично, может быть, есть алиби. У вас лично.
You personally may have an alibi, but the CIA has no such alibi.
Do you have evidence that NATO or the CIA did it?
You know, I won't get into details, but people always say in such cases, look for someone who is interested.
But I'm confused. I mean, that's the biggest act of industrial terrorism ever, and it's the largest emission of CO2 in history. Okay, so if you had evidence, and presumably given your security services, your intel services, you would, that NATO, the US, CIA, the West did this, why wouldn't you present it and win a propaganda victory?
In the war of propaganda, it is very difficult to defeat the United States because the United States controls all the world's media and many European media. The ultimate beneficiary of the biggest European media are American financial institutions. Don't you know that? So it is possible to get involved in this work, but it is cost prohibitive, so to speak. We can simply shine the spotlight on our sources of information, and we will not achieve results.
So I can't produce the evidence that would substantiate my claim because nobody will believe me. That's not particularly persuasive. But the topic is an important one. So let's start there with Stephen Bucci, who's served America for 3 decades as an Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, visiting fellow of the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's always my pleasure. Thank you for having me back on the show.
What about Nord Stream? You know, these are pipelines that allowed Russia to provide 45% of the natural gas that Europe consumes, so it's a big deal. There was a competing pipeline that was coming online just days before Nord Stream was sabotaged, and it has been concluded that there was sabotage. Nobody has offered a conclusion as to who the saboteurs were. So what should we glean from that exchange? Generally speaking.
Well, because if you listen to the way Tucker formed the question, he did it fairly well. Look, this would be a massive victory for you if you had proof that it was the United States or another Western country who did it, trying to smear Russia. Why, if you have the info, don't you put it out there? And this is a man, he's asking, who has had no problem saying some of the most ridiculous things in the world. Like, well, this war is all Ukraine's fault. Okay, but you guys invaded them. So it does not leave Putin with a lot of credibility on this subject. I haven't listened to the whole interview, so I can't opine on every bit of it. But in this particular exchange, Putin does not come across convincing. You guys control it all, so we really can't get the word out there. Oh, that's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But then, so what's the larger context of Nord Stream, though? Why haven't we been able to find out who is the responsible party? It would seem to be an important piece of information to identify.
I don't know the answer to that. Is it perhaps we're leaving the investigation to these other agencies because we don't think anybody will believe us if we say, well, look, it was Russia. I think all of the intel that I have seen points towards Russia doing it, or Russia trying to do it and blame it on Ukraine or a Western country. Ukraine really didn't have the capability to do what happened, so I don't think we can blame them. To be honest with you, there's only a couple of countries who could have pulled this off. The United States, one or two other NATO allies, like perhaps Britain or France, and Russia or China. That's about it. And I'm not sure who did it yet. And I think we at least have to wait for those European investigations, a couple of which have some credibility, and see what they say. It may not be convincing evidence at that point, but I don't think it's worth trying to guess now.
Speaking of Britain, one of the other things that Putin said vis-a-vis Ukraine was that effectively there was a peace settlement on the table that Zelensky had at least voiced support for, and then Boris Johnson, who was British Prime Minister at the time, flew in and scuttled the deal. Is there any truth to that?
That one I don't know the answer to. frankly, that doesn't sound convincing either.
It doesn't.
Given how hardcore Zelensky has been since the beginning of this. I mean, I could see some of the European allies getting wobbly and saying, well, we really need to probably give away half of your country just to get peace. They've done that before. They could do it again. I don't see Zelensky being the wobbly one in this case. I think that's not credible.
Something else. I mean, this was a thread throughout the 2-hour interview, which is Putin is essentially, this is how he casts himself. I'm a man of peace. I have spent the last 2 decades plus reaching out to the West after the fall of the Soviet Union, and he's got a very stylized version of how that went down too, by the way. But which I won't get into now. But I even asked Bill Clinton when he was on his way out the door in the end of the last century if there was any possibility Russia could be part of NATO. He seemed open-minded to it, but then he talked to staff. He came back to me, said that's not going to happen. I said fine, but just don't expand eastward. And then at every turn, I had commitments that we were not going to expand, that the NATO would not expand eastward towards Russia, and they were broken and multiple times. And I've extended this olive branch and that olive branch. I've tried to do this. I've tried to do that. He said the same thing when the question was asked, will you allow us to take even Gershkovich, the Wall Street Journal reporter, home? It's like, well, I've already done so much. So at some point he can return to his motherland probably, but I've done so much and I've got nothing in return. I've been just betrayed by the West at every turn. And I just wonder how that's sort of a top line summary of his characterization of the last 20 years of his reign. And I just wanted to get your reaction to that.
Well, I can't give you eyewitness accounts of that entire period. I can give you eyewitness accounts of some of it, though. And I have to tell you, when we were doing our missile defense setup, because we were very concerned about Iran and North Korea. This is during the George W. Bush administration when I was in the Pentagon. We brought the Russians in. We brought in very high-ranking Russians and said, this is what we're doing. We opened up top-secret documents and showed them. It was stuff they probably already knew, so it wasn't that big a deal. But we were as transparent as I think we have ever been with the Russians. And the Russians said, not no, but heck no. We know you're really doing this against us. We don't trust you guys. So for him to portray himself and his subordinates as, oh, we were always reaching out the olive branches. It was you guys who were the problem, including on the whole transfer when they were trying to rebuild their country after the fall of the Soviet Union. The things we did to try and help them were way over the top. They were the first ones we went to in that period, not to the other former Soviet socialist republics. We went to Russia first because they were the big elephant that was still in that position. And Russia stiff-armed us at every point in the process. I get they're suspicious of, the expansion of NATO, but I'm sorry, he's trying to operate under the old sphere of influence kind of theory that those countries used to be part of the Soviet Union or under their sway through the Warsaw Pact, and they should stay under their sway now. And if anything that violates that is a threat to Mother Russia, I'm sorry, that is a delusional view of his position in the world and the way the world should run. The big countries don't get to poop all over the little countries and say, we don't care what you want to do, we don't care where you want to face, you're going to be under our control and it's going to stay that way in perpetuity. Sorry, Vlad, that's not going to happen.
He was asked by Tucker about his designs past Ukraine on Poland and the Baltics. Listen to what he said.
Because we have no interest in Poland, Latvia, or anywhere else. Why would we do that? We simply don't have any interest. It's just threat mongering.
Well, the argument, I know you know this, is that, well, he invaded Ukraine. He has territorial aims across the continent. And you're saying unequivocally you don't.
Абсолютно, это абсолютно исключено.
It is absolutely out of the question. You just don't have to be any kind of analyst. It goes against common sense to get involved in some kind of a global war.
Глобальная война.
So, Stephen, what's your assessment of his designs beyond Ukraine?
I think he's ignoring the key point to that argument. If that's the case, then why the heck did you invade Ukraine? I mean, Ukraine, one, doesn't have the capability to go after Russia. Ukraine had essentially, prior to the invasion, kind of given up on getting Crimea back. They still wanted some peace on their eastern part of the country, but that's because those areas that Russia had helped secede, and there's no doubt that Russia helped them do that with military forces who came in with no insignia on them. They were still agitating and attacking Ukrainians. It's kind of bizarre to me that Putin thinks nobody was watching this whole time. If he's willing to invade Ukraine, then why should we believe him when he says, "Oh, but I don't want to invade anybody else"? It's just not credible, and he really is betting on the looniest people in America to believe him and think he's a credible partner in the future, and he has proven himself not to be. He had a brief period when, frankly, they were really down on their luck, and they watched the first Gulf War and went, "Whoa, those guys are a little better at this stuff than we thought they were. I'm glad we didn't have to fight them," and they got very cooperative. And then since then, Putin has just done mischief. And I'm sorry, I know a lot of people want to believe him because they think we shouldn't be in Ukraine. But I got to tell you, this man is a professional liar. He is a trained intelligence operative, and he's really good at looking you straight in the eye and telling you something that is 100% off the truth, and would probably pass a polygraph while doing it.
No, I mean, it's not about him being a partner, though, and I don't believe him either. I don't take anything he says at face value either. But it's a question of making the assessment, right, of whether or not, if from his perspective, the way he thinks, it would be in his interest to follow on up on Ukraine into the Baltics or Poland or elsewhere. That's the question. It's not like any naive view that he is a partner for a better tomorrow.
I think he 100%, if he got away with taking over Ukraine, if his original plan had worked and he had taken Kyiv and he had blown the Zelensky government out and was able to impose or place someone there that was a puppet to him, that he wouldn't have immediately turned around and started fiddling with the Baltic countries or Poland. But down the road, he would have taken that as, hey, we did it in Ukraine. Let's see how far we can get in the next one. There's no doubt in my mind that he would have continued to push that he would consider it in his interest to do it. Maybe not a straight-up invasion, but definitely doing that, the little green men, as we started to call them, sending in the operatives, messing with the locals, trying to provoke something that would then give them justification to act in defense of people they said were, their people that they had to protect.
One other thing before we let you go. Venezuela saber-rattling in our direction. Amazing that is. If the U.S. imposes any sanctions on the Venezuelan oil and gas industries, why? We've been begging them for oil and gas because of our own idiotic energy policy. But let's say that the U.S. says the Venezuela is threatening that they will end all repatriation flights of Venezuelan migrants from the United States. And this is a larger issue. These countries that say, we send a bunch of people to break into your country, we're not taking them back. What should the U.S. posture be?
The Biden administration has painted themselves into a corner with this one. I don't know what the heck you do with them. You can't just put them on a plane and force the plane to land. If the other guys, won't let you land, you're kind of stuck. So what do you do with those folks? I don't have a good answer for that. The answer was you shouldn't have let them in the first place.
Yeah, right.
But I don't know what you do if the other country will not cooperate and take the people back. We had that problem with a lot of the folks that we had at Guantanamo Bay. At a certain point, during the global war on terror, at a certain point, we were done with those people. We knew there was no more use holding them. We didn't think they were an enormous threat anymore, and we were ready to repatriate them. But either they didn't want to go back or the country didn't want to take them back, and we were like, what the heck do we do with these guys? And there was about 100+ people that, as you recall, when Obama took office, his campaign promise was close it all down, get rid of them all. And
Steve,
he found out he couldn't get rid of all of them.
We got to go. Stephen Bucci, Heritage Foundation. Thanks as always, Steve. Appreciate your time. And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up at 7:07, Andy McCarthy. It is now 7 o'clock, AM 560 WIND.
Israel gets 2 hostages back. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, rescuing them in a raid in Gaza.
We understand that the Israelis overnight taking part in this mission in the densely populated city of Rafah just before 2 a.m. local time. On the second floor of a building, Israeli soldiers engaged Hamas gunmen in a firefight before securing Fernando Marman and Luis Har.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv says the 2 are in good condition. Among those, Hamas kidnapped in October, triggering the war. Officials in Gaza say that Israeli raid also left 67 Palestinians dead. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin back in a hospital, but this time we know about it. Unlike last month when he didn't even tell President Biden he was hospitalized for complications from prostate cancer surgery.
In a statement, the Pentagon is telling us after a series of tests and evaluations, the secretary was admitted into the critical care unit at Walter Reed for supportive care and close monitoring. At this time, it is not clear how long Secretary Austin will remain hospitalized.
Fox's Peter Ducey also reports Austin's transferred his duties to Deputy Kathleen Hicks. Chiefs fans are celebrating. That's from a watch party in Wichita when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl in overtime, beating San Francisco 25-22.
The whole family of Kansas City and Chiefs Kingdom is special.
Patrick Mahomes threw the game-winning touchdown pass, leading the Chiefs to a 3rd NFL title in 5 years, and he's been MVP in all those wins.
I can't ask for anything better than this, man. We're Super Bowl champs, Kansas City. I'll see y'all at the parade. Let's do it, baby.
The parade will be Wednesday. Now, before the game, President Biden put out a video on X complaining about a grocery store trend called shrinkflation.
Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break.
He called on them to stop doing that. Now, there's a new ABC Ipsos poll showing 86% of Americans think the president's too old. Days after the special counsel report did not recommend criminal charges for mishandling classified documents, in part because the jury might be sympathetic to a man with poor memory. America's listening to Fox News. 26 degrees. Skies are mostly clear at this hour. Here are the stories we're following this morning on WIND Chicago. Marathon world record holder Calvin Kiptum and his coach are dead after a car crash in western Kenya Sunday. Kiptum, you may recall, set the world marathon record here in Chicago last year, running it in 2 hours and 35 seconds. He also won the London Marathon last year and was a favorite for the Olympics in Paris. He was 24. After refusing to take responsibility for his actions at trial, Mike Madigan's ex-chief of staff will face sentencing today. Federal prosecutors say Tim Mapes chose to willfully obstruct the government's sprawling investigation into the former Democrat Illinois House Speaker when he repeatedly lied to a grand jury and should be sentenced to as much as 5 years in prison. One person is dead, 6 others are injured after a Sunday morning crash on the city's southwest side. It happened in the 4200 block of South Pulaski in the Archer Heights neighborhood. Chicago Progressive Democrat State Representative Cam Buckner has introduced a bill that would ban single-family-only zoning in big Illinois cities. Charlie Farner is owner of a Enterprise, a major real estate company in central Illinois, and has 10 active subdivisions under construction all over central Illinois.
Here should be whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, that let our local communities do what's best for our communities. We know what's best, and here you have the state coming in saying, nope, we're gonna broad brush this thing. And
Buckner arguing on social media his bill only applies in cities with populations over 100,000, but that is 8 big cities in the state of Illinois.
Until there's actual legislation to look through and line by line and analyze what they're trying to accomplish here, it's state intrusion into local planning.
Farner says if the bill passes, he worries realtors will take it on the chin as well. Chicago sports, the Bulls were unable to get it done in overtime in a 114-108 weekend loss to Orlando. They take on Atlanta tonight. The Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow night. 7:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher hopes Biden takes this seriously.
Now, Congress is clashing fiercely over the degree of American involvement in this conflict in the Middle East. Again, it's the Biden regime, it's the Biden era, and we're going to see what Grandpa Joe comes up with. Let's hope he's making decisions when he is fairly lucid, because these are America's sons and daughters we're talking about.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Oil investments involve a high degree of risk and actual results may vary. Oil and natural gas keep going up as the Russia conflict escalates. Get in on the next major oil boom now and help the U.S. with your patriotic investment that can potentially pay you monthly income for up to 20 or more years. That's the sound of a producing oil well and the sound of a smart investment. If you're an SEC accredited investor and have at least $25,000 liquid now, you can take advantage of Encore Energy's projects and a huge tax savings for this year. If you invest in oil and natural gas, you're allowed to write off nearly 100% of your investment in the first year. Goldman Sachs is projecting oil to go up to $100 a barrel, and natural gas is the fuel of the future and trading at record prices. Call 800-287-6691. Encore Energy is a major investor and experienced operator in its core area of operations. Call now and learn how to deduct 100% of your investment and create 20 or more years of potential monthly income. Call 800-287-6691. That's 800-287-6691.
If you have a bank account, pay attention. The U.S. banking system is once again under extreme stress, but there is an easy way to protect yourself. Gold. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your family's financial future. As a thank you for opening a qualified account, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Just use the promo code GOLD. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
At Consumer Cellular, you get the same exact coverage as the largest carriers, but for up to half the cost. Same thing, up to half the cost. Up to half the cost for the same thing. 50% the money for 100% the same thing. I hope I'm making myself clear. Consumer Cellular. When freedom calls, we're here to answer. Call us at 1-888-FREEDOM.
Half the cost savings based on cost of Consumer Cellular single-line 5GB data plan with unlimited talk and text compared to lowest cost single-line postpaid unlimited talk, text, and data plan offered by T-Mobile and Verizon May 2023.
Right now is a really good time to get your student loans under control. There are so many people that we talk to every day who tell us that they just feel so much anxiety and overwhelmed by their student loans. But once they pick up that phone and call us and we're able to give them a plan and a strategy that may lower their payment by hundreds of dollars, sometimes thousands of dollars, and may actually get their loans forgiven. The point is just to give people some clarity and control over their situation so that they know that whatever the payment is, whatever the plan is, there actually is a plan, and that plan is going to save them the most amount of money. I'm Ray Kaplan, and I can help you get debt-free, stress-free. Give us a call at 312-294-8989 or visit us at financialrelief.com.
7:08. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is the service of In Grace with Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday morning at 6:30 on AM 560, The Answer. Kennedy inbound 22 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Outbound on the Kennedy, you've delays between the Tri-State and Mannheim due to a much earlier accident. Dan Ryan in, accident involving two semis. Gumming up the works inbound in the locals between Pershing and Canalport. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast in our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Here's Steve Williams.
Sunshine for today, the high at 45. It'll be clear and cold tonight, low 29. A partly sunny day tomorrow, the high 39. Clouds and breaks of sun, a milder day on Wednesday, the high Wednesday afternoon at 47. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
26 at O'Hare, next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy will be back tomorrow. We talked a bit about it a bit earlier in the program that unsurprisingly this weekend had a lot of Biden administration flacks doing damage control duty, from his wife to his VP to his spokeshuman to his Homeland Security Secretary to his co-campaign chairman. And, even to the press corps, of course, his comm shop. You've got the spokeshuman, KJP, and you've got the comm shop. People like John King over at CNN. Take a listen.
Yeah. The stutter, God bless him. I mean, the man deserves a lot of credit for fighting through that in a very public way with a camera aimed at him every second of every day. For someone to go through that and put up with it, it takes a lot of courage. And whether you're a Democrat or Republican, Independent, people with hardships have to deal with hardships. He deserves a ton of credit for that. I first covered Joe Biden in Iowa in 1987. I was out there covering Governor Dukakis and went to other events. He has never been a great communicator, but he is good in small settings, and he's a good small talker, and he puts you at ease if you're in a small group with him. He's never been great off the teleprompter. And
you see, what Robert Hurd memorialized in that report is just Joe being Joe. That's just Joe being Joe. He's not a great communicator, but he's good in small groups, and he's overcome a lot, and that's all we really should think about. And then you have, so that's one piece of it, right? Joe's just, he's not good with the English. He doesn't speak of the English particularly well. But that doesn't mean he's unfit for the job, of course. And in point of fact, in those small group settings, particularly in crisis situations, I mean, there's nobody better. And that's the other half of what you heard. For example, Kamala Harris.
Listen, I have been privileged and proud to serve as Vice President of the United States with Joe Biden as President of the United States. And what I saw of that report last night, I believe is, as a former prosecutor, the comments that were made by that prosecutor, gratuitous, inaccurate, and inappropriate.
How dare you, sir? And they're also inaccurate because, I mean, the most difficult part of Ali Mayorkas' job at Homeland Security is not, he's not even trying to slow the flow of migrants coming across the border, is not trying to come up with cover stories for the administration's policies with respect to the border. It's just preparing for the meetings.
The most difficult part about a meeting with President Biden is preparing for it, because he is sharp, intensely probing, and detail-oriented and focused.
Yeah, it's got to be intimidating to go into a meeting with that kind of intellectual firepower across the table. And he's going to be exacting in his demands. So there it was. He is a intellectual force to be reckoned with. He doesn't speak of the English so good. How dare you bring up his dead son and say that he forgot the date. How dare you, sir? Gratuitous, inappropriate. Her is a Republican operative appointed by Trump to the Justice Department. So this is a political hit job. Did I leave anything else out in terms of this cover story? Oh yeah, one thing. 80% of the American people don't believe the people you just heard. They don't believe them. For more on this and what might be possible if it were to come to that, meaning a replacement for Biden, which I've always said, barring a health event, and I don't mean what occurred on Thursday night, he is going to be the nominee. He's going to be on the ballot. I've said that from the beginning. Amid all of the Michelle Obama this and Gavin Newsom that conspiracy theories, and I still think that. But there is a renewed conversation about, and I've saw people, articles of impeachment, 25th Amendment. So let's talk about it with our friend and legal expert, Andrew McCarthy, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York, contributing International Review, author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Rig an Election and Destroy a Presidency. Andy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Dan, great to be with you.
So, I mean, the short of it is, if Biden doesn't want to leave, there's no real accessible way to force him out, is there? And even if there was an inclination to do so, and based on the response you're getting from within the circles of his party, at least publicly, there isn't much of one.
No, there's not. I mean, the 25th Amendment could be invoked, but first of all, that's a political calculation, not a legal one. There's not like a legal standard that says, if you're X amount unfit, this automatically triggers. It's got to be triggered politically, which means by the vice president and the cabinet, or at least half the cabinet. It's really rigged is the wrong word, but the amendment is geared so that unless you have a president who is, what they had in mind, Dan, when they enacted that or ratified it, was the JFK situation. If he had lived through if he had been
right.
Conscious after, not conscious, but if he had been, his organs
technically
had been
alive,
continuing to work, but or Woodrow Wilson, that whole situation. So if you have a president who's not completely out of it like that, I don't mean just like hyperbolically, rhetorically out of it, like we refer to Biden at times, but like really out of it, then yes, you could invoke it. But otherwise, a president who doesn't want to be removed won't be removed under the terms of the amendment. I don't see any stomach at the moment for removing him, but I just would point out it was a shocking poll. I think it was an ABC poll over the weekend that 86% of the country doesn't think this guy is up to the job.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many issues in American politics do we have that are 86% issues?
No, right, and right, and what you're supposed to, the spin that they came up with. I mean, I'm not saying they have a strong hand to begin with, but this, what he does remember is he created all these jobs and he did all this. He's, it's like, yeah, okay, Mitchell Andrew, all right, that's not quite going to be enough. That what he remembers is all the wonderful things he's did. First of all, many of that 86%, a majority, in fact, don't think he's done such a wonderful job. On top of that, it's like, it's the typical "don't believe your lying eyes" sort of defense, and it's hard to persuade people not to believe their lying eyes.
No, that's right, and also it's clear he doesn't want to go. And look, if it was. We're all thinking about what would be great for the country, or what would be the best for the country. And, you don't really have an alternative here that would be great for the country. It's not like, he leaves and you get Harris. That's,
Right.
But if you put it in his, you try to get into his shoes, when you have a guy who's been on the national stage for half a century and, I think despite his very severe flaws and limitations, somehow has managed to have like the two highest jobs that you can have in the executive branch.
Mm-hmm.
He's at the pinnacle of power. To expect him to get out because you think he should get out when he wants to stay it's just not realistic. And, look, he's got a very good chance of beating Trump. I still think he's the favorite if it's him and Trump. And I know things are bad now, but I think sometimes people don't realize how bad this is going to get for Trump in the end. I mean, they have like $250 million that they're already buying up ads because Trump has to divert so much money to legal help, and the Republican Party is run completely incompetently, so they don't have money. So the Democrats are, I mean, the deluge that's coming starting around like late August, September is just, it's going to be like nothing we ever saw before.
Well, I mean, that's true. The real wild card for me as it pertains to Trump is how people react if any of those cases that are pending get to trial and an adjudication. And so, in other words, if he's convicted of any crime before November, and then you get the convicted felon messaging on that topic. And speaking of which, let's divert to Trump for a second. I mean, is it your handle that the only case that looks more likely than not to get to trial before November is the Alvin Bragg case in Manhattan?
I still think that they badly want to try the Washington federal case.
Oh, sure.
As a practical matter, I don't see how Judge Chutkan can schedule that trial until we see what the Supreme Court does with the obstruction case involving the J6 defendants. And we're probably not going to get that until late June. Just so your listeners understand why I'm saying that. Even though President Trump is not a party in that J6 case where the Supreme Court is apparently disturbed by the way prosecutors have stretched that statute, the same statute that's at issue in that case is the main two counts of the case against President Trump in the 4-count indictment. So I don't see how Chutkan can start, if the Supreme Court is going to give guidance on that statute, I don't see how she can start the case prior to that. So I don't think that case can go before sometime in July. And depending on what the court does with the obstruction statute, it could completely change the case. So we'll have to look at that, but that's the case they really want to go to trial on. I suggested over the weekend, they'll never do this because it's a good idea, but I think if you really wanted to get the Florida case to trial, what Biden should do is pardon Trump on all the classified documents counts, which there's 32 in that indictment, and sweat it down to a straight obstruction case. The reason that case is bogged down is because the Classified Information Procedures Act requires that all of the admissibility issues get litigated prior to trial, and there are appeals. So if you got rid of the classified information counts and just made it a straight obstruction case, which is what I think they should have done in the first place, you could actually get that to trial, and it would be the right thing to do because, looking at what Hur did with Biden, the idea that the difference between the Biden case and the Trump case is that Biden cooperated and Trump obstructed, so they say. That's a reason to charge Trump with obstruction. It's not a reason to not charge Biden with classified documents. If I commit a murder, but I'm very cooperative with the investigators, they're not going to say, well, that whole murder thing, let's forget about that.
Right.
I'm going to be charged. So it's not a good reason not to charge Biden, especially when you charged Trump. So just basic fairness, they ought to cancel out the classified information counts on Trump. And if they really want to get the case to trial, the only way that case is getting to trial is if they get the classified stuff out.
Well, so on Hur, I mean, that is actually an interesting idea, probably a good one from their perspective. The Robert Hur, you heard part of it there. J.B. Pritzker saying too, I smell a political rat. Robert Hur did this, and he included the language there about Biden's senility because he is. It's a hit job from a MAGA cultist that was in Trump's DOJ. Or it's Robert Hur covering his ass because he has to have a rationale for why he's not charging Biden, and this is it. This is what he came up with. But I mean, give us your assessment of Hur's decision and the quality of the report that he issued.
Well, I think his reasoning is flawed, but not in a way that in the opposite way of what Pritzker and the rest of them are suggesting. I mean, I think it's ridiculous, first of all, to accuse him of a political hit job, because first of all, the bottom line here is the guy willfully committed the crimes, but he's given him a pass.
Right.
So, I mean, right away you're starting with the main conclusion is he doesn't think he should be charged. But the other thing that people need to understand about the way the regs work, they explicitly say this is supposed to be a confidential report from the special counsel to the attorney general, where the special counsel lays out all of his reasoning. So in theory, now it's become a convention that these things eventually get publicized, and I'm sure Herr must have written it with an idea that the public might see it. But it was up to Attorney General Garland what got released publicly. Herr's job was to give Garland a full report on why he thought Biden shouldn't be charged. And he would have had to do, if he had charged Biden, he would have had to do the same thing, explain his rationale. And if you're a prosecutor and you're explaining to your boss why I think, even though we have overwhelming evidence, and the reason I say it's overwhelming is this is where I think the report is flawed. He found that Biden willfully violated the law, and the statute only requires a showing of gross negligence. So willfully is the highest intent standard in the criminal law. Gross negligence, you don't even have to show that the guy intended to violate it, just that he was grossly negligent in carrying out his obligations to safeguard national security information. So to me, that's an overwhelming case to charge. And the other flaw in his rationale, I think, is that if you say that Biden shouldn't be charged because the jury would be very sympathetic to him as a well-meaning elderly guy with a bad memory, the issue is not what his state of mind is now.
Right.
The issue is what his state of mind was at the time that these acts got committed. Some of them go back to when he was in the Senate, which he left 16 years ago, and some of them go back to when he was vice president, from 2008 till 2016. So that's 8 years ago. He was a very different guy then than he is now. But the other thing is, if you're the prosecutor reporting to your boss about why we don't charge this, if one of the reasons you don't charge it is, if I charge this guy, I'm going to be in a 6 to 12 month litigation over whether he's fit to stand trial, you have to disclose that to the boss. You don't have a choice about that. And that's a significant issue here. Even if Biden thinks he's fine, any competent defense lawyer, if he were to have gotten a multiple count felony indictment, would be throwing everything at the court that you could throw at the court to try to get him out of it. And one of them would be he's not fit to stand trial. So that was going to be a significant issue. The thought that you wouldn't put that in a report is crazy. And the fact is, if Garland thought that it shouldn't be out there, he could have redacted it. But it was Garland's choice to make this report public, and it was Garland's choice to not put those, to not redact those things before they went out. And I think this is just another one of these things, Dan, where it's like sanctuary cities. They all want to be sanctuary. Chicago wants to be a sanctuary city until you actually have to be one, right?
Yeah, right.
And then you have Biden and Garland. They want to tell you how transparent they are. Well, this is transparency. Transparency isn't something you just get a medal for. It's when you put out information that is very unflattering. That's what it requires. So they run around telling everyone they're going to be transparent. This is what it is. He put it out.
On the Supreme Court oral arguments in the Colorado ballot access case last week, it seemed to me that maybe Justice Roberts sort of had the definitive exchange with the Colorado attorney, the attorney for the state of Colorado, where he basically made the argument, a very practical one, that said, if we allow this, then how do we stop this from being a wildfire across the country, and the Supreme Court ultimately being put in the position of deciding, which handful of states where both men are on the ballot count in terms of deciding who the president, who a president would be. Just a practical matter of the precedent that Colorado would set if that state Supreme Court decision was allowed to stand. Seems to me where the court is, I know it's dangerous reading into oral arguments, but boy, that was coming across pretty strongly, even across sort of the ideological divide there.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think he's obviously going to write the opinion. When the
Right.
when the Chief Justice is in the majority, he gets to write it or assign it. I'm sure he'll write it himself. I think what he wants is a 9-0 opinion if he can do that, and I think it's very possible in this case that he could. What I'm worried about, though, Dan, is that I think he can get consensus on that point about how if you let a state do this, you can have complete chaos. I think the court's on board with that. But the problem is they don't want to get into like what an insurrection is and what you have to do to commit one and all that jazz. So they're looking for consensus that keeps them away from that because that's politically charged. But the thing is, if they don't solve that, what you're going to have happen is if Trump wins the election, the Democrats in Congress, who are not the states now, right? The 14th Amendment says it can be invoked by Congress, and Section 5 of the 14th Amendment says Congress is the one who's in charge with enacting standards to enforce it. So the consensus the court is forming is around what states can do. It's not about what Congress can do. And I could easily see if Trump wins the election, Democrats in Congress at the next January 6th say that they don't want to have him seated because he's not eligible, because he's an insurrectionist. And then we're right back to the drawing board. So I really hope they decide what an insurrection is, but I don't think they're gonna.
Well, couldn't they also just decide to say, well, look, we're not going to decide, we're not going to define what an insurrection is because the individual hasn't been charged with anything that resembles seditious conspiracy, anything that resembles it's something that's tantamount under criminal law to an insurrection. So if you're not charging him under criminal law or in a successful impeachment proceeding with it, then it's not an insurrection.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I hope that they go there. What they could say is, after the 14th Amendment was ratified, Congress enacted 2 pieces of legislation that were relevant. One was a civil lawsuit to enforce Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. The other was what comes down to us now as the insurrection criminal statute. The civil lawsuit is no longer on the books. It was enacted in 1870, and for some reason it was repealed in 1942, but we still have the criminal statute. So what I hope they say is we're not going to get involved in what an insurrection is, but Congress has gotten involved by enacting a criminal statute, and at a minimum, somebody needs to be convicted of it before you can say he's an insurrectionist. So, the Justice Department, as you point out, has never charged Trump. They've never charged anyone. They've charged, I think, 1,260 people now, I think, have been arrested in connection one way or another with the Capitol riot. No one has been charged with insurrection.
Andy McCarthy, former Chief Assistant U.S. Attorney, Southern District of New York, contributing editor at National Review, author of the bestseller Ball of Collusion, The Plot to Reagan Election and Destroy a Presidency. Andy, thank you as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
And Andy joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line. Coming up at 7:37, Naperville, Downers Grove. Then it's not just about migrants being welcoming communities. It's also a piece of legislation introduced by one dyed-in-the-wool red named Anna Stava Murray that would do what we've seen in other states. Here it comes to Illinois, other states like California. You don't support your minor child having a sex change operation, being mutilated. You don't support your minor child getting an abortion. You no longer retain custody of your minor child. 7:37. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Sunshine and 26 degrees on this Monday morning. The Israeli military has rescued 2 hostages from captivity in the Gaza Strip. It identified them as Fernando Simon Marmon and Louis Har.
A major development overnight as Israeli special forces conducted a complex rescue operation to save 2 hostages. We understand that the Israelis overnight taking part in this mission in the densely populated city of Rafah just before 2 a.m. local time. On the 2nd floor of a building, Israeli soldiers engaged Hamas gunmen in a firefight before securing Fernando Marmon and Luis Har. Once back in Israel, the two rescued hostages were flown by helicopter to the Sheba Medical Center here in Tel Aviv, where they were reunited with their families.
More than 100 hostages remain in terrorist custody. The Senate moving forward with a $95 billion aid bill for Ukraine and Israel. Its fate in the House is uncertain. The King of Jordan will be at the White House today, discussing the precarious situation in the Middle East with President Biden, the president's first meeting with King Abdullah since 3 U.S. soldiers were killed in Jordan. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin back in the hospital for an apparent bladder issue. Austin taken to Walter Reed after experiencing symptoms contingent with an emergent issue. Austin, you may recall, was hospitalized last month after an infection related to surgery for prostate cancer. Marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum and his coach are dead after a car crash in Kenya Sunday. Kiptum set the world marathon record here in Chicago last year, running the 26.2 miles in 2 hours and 35 seconds. He was 24 years old. After nearly a week of strikes, the Chicago Teachers Union and Instituto del Progreso Latino have tentatively agreed on terms on a new contract that impacts hundreds of students and sends teachers back into the classroom as soon as today. One person is dead, 6 others injured after a Sunday morning crash on the city's southwest side. It happened around 2:30 in the morning in the 4200 block of South Pulaski in the Archer Heights neighborhood. The Bulls were unable to get it done in overtime over the weekend, losing to Orlando. The Bulls visit the Atlanta Hawks tonight. The Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow night. Chiefs outlast the 49ers in overtime to win the Super Bowl. Canadian Nick Taylor celebrating his 4th career victory, taking down 47-year-old Charlie Hoffman in a 2-hole playoff to win the 2024 Phoenix Open at TPC Scottsdale. 7:35, and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Dennis Prager explains why we have a bleak future.
More than ever, teenagers see a bleak future. That's the headline. Now, why might that be? My contention is the left has ruined their lives. The left has ruined this country. It might survive, it might not.
The Dennis Prager Show. Weekdays at 11, right before Charlie Kirk at 1 on AM 560. The Answer.
This holiday season, did you visit your crawl space to retrieve the Christmas tree and decorations? Are you one who wouldn't venture down there on a bet? Hi, I'm Roy Spencer from Permaseal, and if you're one of the latter, I can't blame you. We've seen some pretty nasty crawl spaces full of mold, mildew, and crawly things. Certainly not a place to store your family treasures. Well, this year, let Permaseal wrap your crawl space up in our Clean Space encapsulation system. Clean Space will transform your dirty, dark crawl space into a bright, clean, valuable storage area where you can confidently store even your most treasured ornaments and mementos. As a bonus, you'll find you'll have warmer floors and cleaner air upstairs. What a wonderful holiday present for the entire family and a great investment in your home. For a free inspection and estimate, call Permaseal, 800-421-SEAL. That's 800-421-7325 or visit permaseal.net.
Your best for being better, Permaseal.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm here in San Diego. I mean, I surf, I'm active, I'm an ex-college athlete. Well, I decided, I'm going to try that Balance of Nature. Let's just see what happens. Like after about a month and a half, man, what a difference. That sold me right there. That's when I was like, this stuff's working, so I'm going to stick with it. And so I've been sticking with it ever since. And it's definitely helped, and I definitely feel good. Seems like to be the real deal.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
This is Dennis Prager, and now a truly exciting new benefit. My monthly online video get-together for Pragertopia Plus members only. For an hour each month, get an exclusive chance to ask me anything. I'll be answering your questions. I've never done this. Submit your questions for me at Pragertopia.com. This is our chance to connect like never before. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code RADIO for an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first fill-up. That's promo code RADIO.
739, the news, a service of Turnkey.pro with decades of C-suite experience. Turnkey knows small business. Their team of veteran consultants know how to reduce costs and grow new revenue streams. Turnkey has solutions for your business. Visit Turnkey.pro. Bishop Ford's Stop and Go, 103rd into the Ryan Expressway merge, while the Dan Ryan Express lanes on the outbound side have just cleared an accident at 35th. Stop and Go on the inbound side of the Dan Ryan further up. It's two semis that tangled between 47th and Canalport. Stevenson Stop and Go this morning between Central and Kedzie, 35 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Traffic, a service of Remke's Garage. Take it to the experts. The shop at Remke's Garage is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. Visit Remke'sGarage.com. Remke'sGarage.com. Remke's is your Sprinter, diesel, and Toyo tire headquarters. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Sunny and 45 today. Clear and 29 overnight. Sunshine and 26 at O'Hare, 27 Midway, 19 in Aurora, 21 in Wheeling. And your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka, weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan. Amy will be back tomorrow. So, Anastasia Murray, the dumbest person to ever graduate from my alma mater, Bennett Academy. Of course, she's in the Illinois General Assembly. Of course, she's been sent there 3 times by the enlightened, professional, highly competent, and intelligent voters in Downers Grove and the surrounding areas, into Naperville. Western suburbs. I mean, why wouldn't you send a communist loon to the General Assembly? You sent one to Congress, Sean Casten. Anastasia Murray has new legislation. Yeah, but these are proponents of open borders. They're proponents of blank checks for people who want to come to this country anytime they want to come on their own terms. So that's going on. Something else is going on, too. A lot of other things are going on because they're relentless. And the electorate in places like Downers Grove is vacuous and cowardly and generally pathetic. Amends the Abused and Neglected Child Reporting Act. Provides that abused child means a child whose parent or immediate family member or person responsible for the child's welfare denies the child access to necessary medical care, including but not limited to primary care services, abortion services, gender-affirming services. amends the Consent by Minors to Healthcare Services Act as well. Specifies that consent to the performance of abortion services and gender-affirming services executed by a minor is not voidable because of such minority, meaning you don't need parental permission. Provides that a healthcare professional rendering abortion services, gender-affirming services, will not incur civil or criminal liability for failure to obtain valid consent or failure to obtain valid consent if the healthcare professional relied in good faith on representations made by the minor. And there are penalties because this is amending to existing acts. So here's the translation of the legalese, as we've seen in other states. Your child wants an abortion, she gets an abortion. You stand in the way, you can have your child taken and be prosecuted by the state. Your little boy wants to be a girl. I want to get surgery. I want to get puberty blockers. I want to get surgery. You stand in the way. In comes the state. Out goes your kid. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636-DA, turnkey.pro text line. I know. When it happens to some family in Downers Grove or Naperville, you were the last to know, right? That family will have been the last to know. I can't believe what is going on in this state, right? As is the response to every other incursion by the state into family, every other extraction by the state from your family. What? What is going on around here? Who's my representative? The law says what? And it will happen. You know why it will happen? Is because the culture is producing these results. Let's just hope it doesn't land on my doorstep, then I can ignore it. The University of California system is seeing a staggering increase in the number of students who identify as either trans or non-binary. According to data released in January, the number of undergraduate students identifying as non-binary across University of California system campuses rose by more than 2,000 individuals in the last 4 years. Even taking into account the shift in data collection, the number and percentage of students identifying as trans or non-binary increased significantly. The percentage of students identifying as gender nonconforming, non-binary, transgender has tripled, in fact. It's still a small percentage, but it was 0.06% in 2019. Now it's 1.9%. Most of the students fell under the non-binary category, while trans men and women were identified as the smallest demographic at 0.2%, 0.2%, and 0.1%. Boy, you wouldn't know it to consider how we have to focus so much on this issue. You wouldn't know it represents such a small fraction of the population. Oh, and by the way, this doesn't work, what the Anastasia Murrays of the world propose. I'm not talking about taking people's kids away from them. That obviously doesn't work. I'm talking about the therapies. I want to do it to the best interest of my kid. She's a boy. He's a girl, so on and so forth. Would you rather have a live boy or a dead live girl or a dead boy, and vice versa, and all this other agitprop and emotional, intellectual blackmail and legal threats from these same parties. Last week, the American College of Pediatricians looked at 60 studies on the effectiveness of sex changes on minors, so sort of a meta-analysis. Looked at the results of 60 studies on the effectiveness of sex changes in minors. The American College of Pediatricians concluded, quote, adolescents who have a gender identity not congruent with their biological sex have an increase of mental health issues, including depression and suicidal ideation. There are no long-term studies demonstrating benefits, nor studies evaluating risks associated with the medical and surgical interventions provided to these adolescents. There is no long-term evidence that mental health concerns are decreased or alleviated after gender-affirming therapy. Because of the risks of social, medical, and surgical interventions, many European countries are now cautioning against these. Of course, we know this. We've talked about it. There's, a professional association of pediatricians that looked at 60 studies, and there's their conclusion about these procedures that Anastasia Murray, and she'll have plenty of support in the Illinois General Assembly that has been elected mainly by Chicagoland. Plenty of support. All these procedures that they want your child to be able to access without your permission. Not only without your permission, but as I said, importantly, we're at the next stage now. Are you keeping up? The next stage is, and you better be on board. They don't need your permission, and we better not hear any opposition. Because who are you, Mom and Dad? Way to go, Downers Grove. Pretty pleased. Going well, right? Greg in LaGrange, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hi, good morning, Dan. This is straight evil. The people that put these individuals in office should be ashamed. They don't even get up in the morning and do any kind of due diligence in who's running for office. They just look for an initial after their name, and they go along with the crowd, willing and complicit. I have a real hard time sometimes in my mind making a distinction between the population of this country and the population of Nazi Germany, because they just willfully go along because they just don't want to know anything different. They don't want to be bothered. It's not going to come to me, so why do I need to worry about it? But yet I'm in with the crowd. I'm hip because I vote for the new way, new thinking, the new philosophy. And all the while, they're taking away the underpinnings of the most important things we have in civilization: God, family, culture, law and order. It's like the Thomas More from the Man for All Seasons when he's giving his son-in-law the business about, what are you going to do when you're a big attorney and you tear down all the laws and the devil turns around on you? Where are you going to run to? You're going to run to the law. Well, they're taking down the law, too. They're taking everything down. It's time to fight back.
Thanks for the call, Greg. Well said. Wait, I know. Downers Grove strong. Hate has no home. No person is illegal. Kindness is everything. Yeah. Going well. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Their U.S.-based restoration specialists are dedicated to helping solve identity theft issues, and all plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which means if you lose money because of identity theft, LifeLock will reimburse you to the limits of your plan. Go to LifeLock.com and save up to 25% your first year with promo code CLAY.
The Fed's new FedNow system is all about surveillance and control. Secure your assets today with something Washington cannot manipulate. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I recommend diversifying your retirement into a physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get a free info kit by texting the word safeguard to 989898. Do this right now. Text safeguard to the number 989898 and get a free info kit from Birch Gold. There's no obligation or purchase required.
Message and data rates may apply.
There are some times when the kids go to bed and we just stay in the night talking about how hard the life it is for us. It's very hard to see my kids go to bed with hunger and not having something to give to them.
You can step into the despair of a mother like Lourdes. For the past 40 years, Food for the Poor has linked generous listeners like you to desperate families throughout the Caribbean and Latin America. Today, your generous gift is an answer to a mother's prayer for her children's survival. Right now, because of a meal-for-meal match, a one-time gift of $160 or just $14 a month provides 4 hungry children with food for the next year. So, how many children can you rescue? Make your gift safely and easily by clicking the red Give Life banner at 560theanswer.com. Again, make your best gift by clicking the red Give Life banner at 560theanswer.com.
Imagine what your future looks like. Is the picture a little blurry? Hey, it's Sean Thompson here for Alpha Wealth Group. When we look ahead, we're visualizing where we want to be, and for retirement, that can be hard without a written financial plan. Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group can help you bring your retirement picture into focus. For decades, Tom has been crafting customized financial strategies. His goal is to help you protect your savings, grow your wealth, and create an income strategy you cannot outlive. If you're nearing or already in retirement, it's time to get your plan on paper. So bring your readers and let's take a look at it closely. Call Tom at 630-934-1855 and schedule a complimentary retirement consultation. There is no cost, there is no obligation. This is a chance to get a clearer view of your retirement. The number again is 630-934-1855 or visit alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour Saturday mornings right here on AM 560 The Answer.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
Do relationships today seem harder than ever? In the world of IT management and infrastructure, what if you had a business partner that thinks like you, is easy to work with, and just seems to get it? MS Consulting Services has been doing this for 25 years. But don't listen to us, listen to some actual customers.
This is Bruno. I work for a medical software company. Being in this field, trust is very important. MS Consulting has been my trusted partner for almost 20 years. They are experienced, dependable, and honest. They do not try to oversell. They truly want to help and are willing to go out of their way to prove it.
Hi, my name's Gary. MS Consulting Services was laser focused on understanding the needs of our business. It was a priority to them to understand the needs of our customers. They're not just helpful, they really are experts at what they do.
So if you want a relationship like this, call John at 1-800-MIT-0404. You'll be glad you did.
Guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low T. Be sure to schedule your health assessment with my friends at Low T Center. They offer the convenience of physician-monitored, self-inject, at-home testosterone treatments with an average payment of $150 a month cash pay, including labs and medication. If you don't live near a Low T Center, just need the convenience of at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. That's Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? Well, you need to call QC Kinetics. Hi, it's Amy Jacobson. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids, cortisone shots, surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury? Well, don't let this pain keep you from living your best. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility and independence. Walk and run, play and live. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. New locations, folks, in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
If you've been carrying credit card debt for at least a year, you're not alone. 56 million Americans are experiencing the same challenge, and Team Hochberg would like to help lower your monthly payments if you own a home. 49% of listeners have credit card balances with rates over 20%, which means it would take over 17 years to pay off their credit cards while paying over $9,000 in interest. To make matters worse, 53% of Americans have less than $500 saved to cover emergencies. If credit cards and personal loans are keeping you up and deteriorating your health, please call Team Hochberg 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com for a free debt consolidation consultation. Team Hochberg has helped thousands of radio listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That's 855-563-2843 and our website, the number 5, the number 6, david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NLS 1124061.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, segregated swimming and other madness on campus with Lawrence Krauss. Krauss is a theoretical physicist and president of the Origins Project Foundation. He joins us at 8:08 to talk about the state of higher ed. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
The 2023 Chicago Marathon winner killed in a car crash. One dead, several injured after a Southwest Side accident. Victim turns tables on a suspected Northwest Side attacker. Charter school teachers are back in class after a short strike ends. Bulls lose to the Magic in overtime. Northwestern pulls away from Penn State in Big Ten hoops while the Illini falter down the stretch. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
This time we know about it. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin back in the hospital in critical care at Walter Reed with a bladder issue.
Austin's powers have been transferred to Deputy Defense Secretary Kathleen Hicks. The Defense Secretary was rushed to Walter Reed on New Year's Day following complications from prostate cancer surgery. The administration was not made aware for days, leading to national security concerns and criticism on Capitol Hill. Austin later apologized for his handling of the matter.
As Fox's Ryan Schmelz, a 5-year-old boy is in critical condition in Texas after he was shot in a Houston church by a woman who brought him there along with a gun. She opened fire. 2 off-duty police officers also there shot back, killing her. A man was also injured in the shooting inside Pastor Joel Osteen's famed church.
There are forces of evil, but the forces that are for us, the forces of God, are stronger than that.
Drama overnight in Gaza.
Israeli special forces conducted a complex rescue operation to save 2 hostages.
Fox's Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv reports the 2 are in good condition back home with their families.
The Israeli air support for this mission included fighter jets and attack helicopters that targeted positions across Rafah. Health authorities in Gaza say more than 67 Palestinians were killed in those strikes.
President Biden has been urging Israel to do more to protect civilians ahead of a new offensive against Hamas in Rafah, as a lot of Americans worry about the president in an ABC News poll.
In terms of concerns about the ability to serve, 86% in this poll of adults are saying he is too old for another term. That includes the 59% who think Trump is as well.
That's Fox's Peter Ducey. The Chiefs are Super Bowl champs again.
I'm going to celebrate it with these people right here, man. Hey, on 3, 1, 2, 3. How about those Chiefs?
Coach Andy Reid, after Kansas City's 25-22 overtime win over San Francisco on CBS, the Chiefs have won back-to-back titles. America's listening to Fox News.
Sunshine, 26 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Marathon world record holder Kelvin Kiptum and his coach are dead. It happened in a car crash in western Kenya Sunday. Kiptum set the world marathon record here in Chicago last year, running in 2 hours and 35 seconds. He was 24. After refusing to take responsibility for his actions at trial, Mike Madigan's ex-chief of staff will face sentencing today. Federal prosecutors say Tim Mapes chose to willfully obstruct the government's investigation into the former Democrat Illinois House Speaker when he repeatedly lied to a grand jury and should be sentenced to as much as 5 years in prison. One person is dead, 6 others hurt after a Sunday morning crash on the city's southwest side. Police say it happened around 2:30 in the 4200 block of South Pulaski Road. 5 people were shot overnight after an apparent argument broke out in the Little Village neighborhood. A preliminary investigation indicates a 30-year-old man got into a verbal altercation with an unidentified man who then shot the 30-year-old man and others in the immediate area. A man accused of attacking multiple pedestrians Saturday remains in critical condition this morning. The attacks happened just before midnight along West Summerdale. 36-year-old suspect was struck in the head with a hammer by one of the victims who retaliated. The suspect is being treated at Lutheran General Hospital. Bulls lost to the Magic on Saturday and take on the Atlanta Hawks tonight. Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow night, and the Chiefs outlast the 49ers to win the Super Bowl. The news, a service of Chicago Gaelic Park House Raffle. Enter to win a brand new home or $450,000 cash prize. $100 per ticket. Drawing held March 24th. Visit Chicago Gaelic Park HouseRaffle.com. AM 560 news time is 8:04. Time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now, the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Stuart Varney, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Diamondback Energy will purchase rival Endeavor Energy Resources in a cash and stock deal for about $26 billion. The combined company would create a drilling giant in the southwest United States. NVIDIA stock rising today following achieving record highs last week, and Tesla stocks also on the rise early today. Hasbro's fourth quarter earnings are expected to fall. The toy maker is scheduled to post them before the market opens Tuesday. Jeff Bezos selling nearly 12 million Amazon shares worth over $2 billion. The Amazon founder had notified federal regulators of the sale on February 7th and February 8th. Elon Musk's brain implant company Neuralink moving its legal home from Delaware to Nevada, a week after a Delaware judge rejected Musk's $55.8 billion pay package as CEO of Tesla. And that's your Fox Business Report. I'm Laura Cantor, invested in you.
8:05, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Brandon Tatum explains the mentality.
Cis women, they call them cis women. It's like a sin to be born and recognize yourself as a woman, because that's how you were born. It's a sin. They are intentionally creating minority victim groups so they can always have a victim grievance. Always.
The Officer Tatum Show. Weeknights at 8, right before Sean Hannity at 10 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm here in San Diego. I mean, I surf, I'm active, I'm an ex-college athlete. Well, I decided, I'm going to try that Balance of Nature. Let's just see what happens. Like after about a month and a half, man, what a difference. That sold me right there. That's when I was like, this stuff's working, so I'm going to stick with it. And so I've been sticking with it ever since, and it's definitely helped, and I definitely feel good. Seems like to be the real deal.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Over $6 billion in tax refunds were flagged by the IRS for possible identity theft in 2023. If you're in a bind this tax season, LifeLock can help. Their U.S.-based restoration specialists are dedicated to helping solve identity theft issues, and all plans are backed by the $1 Million Protection Package, which means if you lose money because of identity theft, LifeLock will reimburse you to the limits of your plan. Go to LifeLock.com and save up to 25% your first year with promo code CLAY.
The Fed's new FedNow system is all about surveillance and control. Secure your assets today with something Washington cannot manipulate. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon, and I recommend diversifying your retirement into a physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. To learn more, get a free info kit by texting the word safeguard to 989898. Do this right now. Text safeguard to the number 989898 and get a free info kit from Birch Gold. There's no obligation or purchase required.
Message and data rates may apply.
If you have a bank account, pay attention. The U.S. banking system is once again under extreme stress, but there is an easy way to protect yourself. Gold. Contact Noble Gold Investments today and safeguard your family's financial future. As a thank you for opening a qualified account, they'll give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin. Just use the promo code GOLD. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Investing in precious metals, including gold, involves risks. Consult with your tax attorney or financial professional before making an investment decision.
Hello, America. It's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you don't have Consumer Cellular yet, now is the perfect time to switch and save. For a limited time, new customers can get wireless service for as low as $15 a month for your first year. Yep, the same exact nationwide coverage as the leading carriers for $15 a month for an entire year. What are you waiting for? Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com and use code RADIO15.
See consumercellular.com/firstyear15 for promotional details.
8:09. Let's get an update on the roads this morning. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. West Chicago, an accident. Washington and Roosevelt. Fox Lake. Report of an accident, Route 59 and Wilson. Glendale Heights, an accident. Army Trail and Bloomingdale Road. 8094 eastbound. You have an accident with a left lane blocked approaching Burr. Tri-State, accident on the exit ramp to Town Line Road. Bishop Ford, an accident on the entrance ramp on the outbound side from Sibley Boulevard. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. In our AM 560 Weather Center, here's Steve Williams.
Sunshine for today, the high at 45. It'll be clear and cold tonight, low 29. A partly sunny day tomorrow, the high 39. Clouds and breaks of sun, a milder day on Wednesday, high Wednesday afternoon at 47. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Sunshine and 27 at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy will be back tomorrow. University of Waterloo in Ontario has something like a caddy swim at Bushwood, 1 to 115, except this is by race. Black Folks Swim, Folx, folks. I'm not, I try to keep up with the Orwellian nomenclature, but that one has me a bit baffled. I assume it means black people. Come and enjoy the pool with other black folks. This dedicated time can be used for lengths or recreation in the 6 available lanes for fast, medium, and recreational swimming. The diving well is open as well. Please follow the lane swim etiquette and all health regulations. There are also swim lessons from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., first come, first served basis. These lessons will be taught by experienced black swimmers and instructors, because obviously white people can't teach black people and black people can't teach white people. You have to be segregated. Isn't that what the civil rights movement was about? Quoting, this is all from the University of Waterloo Athletics and Recreation page. This time, Black Folks Swim is, quote, dedicated to building a better relationship with water for the black community, unquote. Yeah, well, I guess you'll have to take that in and decide how you want to react to that. comes across as more than a bit patronizing to me, but so does this, actually. Piece in the Wall Street Journal recently by Lawrence Krauss. Some other course offerings. We'll just stay in Canada, but, I mean, you could... Well, actually, this isn't in Canada. We've got another example in Canada, but this is Rice University in the great state of Texas. Afrochemistry, the study of Black Lives Matter. Did you see what they did there? Quote, students will apply chemical tools and analysis to understand black life in the United States, and students will implement African-American sensibilities to analyze chemistry. What? No prior knowledge of chemistry or African-American studies is required for engagement in this course. You could have stopped with no prior knowledge is required or will be conferred. The state of higher education. Again, this drum that we've been beating for the last several weeks, because a couple of Ivy League university presidents self-immolated does not mean that things are changing in the academy. And there is a lot of evidence to suggest it's quite the contrary. For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by the aforementioned Lawrence Krauss, who's a theoretical physicist, president of the Origins Project Foundation, and author of The Edge of Knowledge, Unsolved Mysteries of the Cosmos. Lawrence Krauss, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's nice to be with you, virtually at least.
I don't know. Shall we start with black chemistry or black swim time at University of Waterloo? The state of, obviously, higher education with this identitarian obsession.
Yeah, I mean, higher education is supposed to be about open questioning, free speech, open inquiry. Everything goes, and instead, in fact, unfortunately, what's happened is that it's been permeated by ideology. And you've given two examples of that ideology: the notion that there's systemic racism, which is never really proved, but then the claim that there is has resulted in something called anti-racism, which appears on the surface to be a warmed-over version of racism, as you just pointed out. It basically suggests that people should be identified by the color of their skin, or in some cases by their gender, not the quality of their character. It's embarrassing, as you point out, and the worst part of all of this, and the example you gave of that course is just one of a bunch of academic programs that I described in my Wall Street Journal article. That is that if you criticize the claims in various ones of these articles, you're basically claimed as a heretic, a racist, a sexist, or whatever. And that's, to me, the real concern in academia is people's fear of speaking out against things that may or may not be nonsense. It should be an open forum for students and faculty to be able to explore anything and be able to criticize anything, because otherwise, how do you make progress?
Even after what happened to Claudine Gay and the University of Pennsylvania president as well, so the Harvard and Penn presidents, Liz McGill, even have what happened to them, like they humiliated themselves in front of the nation and with their congressional testimony. And the response on campus is just to pretend like that didn't happen, or I guess I think the problem people have who are sort of coming from the same place that you and I are coming from, just the basics of human interaction. We're not to judge people by their color, content of their character. I don't care what your color is. I don't care about your non-behavioral characteristics. We all need to get along and be collaborative and respectful in this peaceful, pluralistic society if we want to keep it. So, like basic stuff, like grade school stuff from generations ago. And now those are words that cannot be spoken. Like, what does it take to penetrate? It's just people are just baffled by what they can't say and what is being done while they're seemingly spectators.
Well, I mean, the point is, it's like kind of a frog in boiling water. How it's sort of you heat it up, and you never notice what's happening. And what's happened is that a lot of this began with good intent, 30, 40 years ago, to try and ameliorate disparities, in women in science and things like that. And so the intent is good. And then what happens is, what's really kind of happened is that the universities have built up this bureaucracy called diversity, equity, inclusion, that is run by bureaucrats, not academics, that is basically put down this almost totalitarian system that you have to pass loyalty oaths and other things in order to even be hired. And I think the problem with the testimony of the presidents wasn't so much, I mean, yeah, it was kind of ridiculous testimony, but the claim in some sense that they would tolerate free speech in the case of the Palestinians arguing that Israel should be destroyed as a state. The claim that basically open discussion was, they weren't going to condemn open discussion even if they hated the content of the discussion, was ludicrous, because those same universities were having rules about what you could say about gender and how could and claims about whether you're allowed to misgender someone. So the hypocrisy was what was so evident, I think, and that's what's almost more disturbing than their testimony themselves. Because look, I think the point of free speech is the point of free speech is not to allow speech that you agree with, but to allow speech that you disagree with. That's the whole point.
Right.
And if universities were consistent in that regard, then that would be fine. But they're not, and it's basically what you're seeing is an ideological fortress being built around political correctness, around statements about gender and race, and as you say, and what's happening here is the notion that somehow there's such systemic racism that we have to segregate, in the case of Waterloo, blacks so that they can feel safe swimming. I mean, that's patently ridiculous, because in fact of all the places in American culture and Canadian culture that are probably the least racist, the least sexist, traditionally have been universities. They've been the most they've promoted on the whole the ideas of inclusion and equity. As I say, you have to if you look at hiring, in fact in Canada it's even worse than the United States, because they don't have the same constitutional liberties in that, or they're guaranteed. In Canada, those same universities are able to now hire faculty and restrict the people who can apply for the positions to either be a most recent one. This was in engineering and science. The most prestigious chairs, the Canada Research Council chairs, were being restricted to people who were either biracial or two gender, or and in some cases female. You can actually say that white males cannot apply for these positions, and that kind of that hurts everyone. Of course, the problem with that kind of notion is that it not only does it suggest that that's needed without ever demonstrating that in fact it's needed, when as far as I can see from in academia it isn't needed. There's so many guarantees to try and have open, inclusive hiring. But it also puts a stigma on those people who are hired, ultimately, because later on people are going to say, well, they were hired in a competition which should be based on merit, but 60% of the population was restricted and not allowed to apply. How's that going to be later on in their careers?
Well,
People aren't looking forward to what's happening.
Yeah, I understand, but you're right. They're not looking forward. They don't seem to be too concerned about that. They want what they want now, and I guess maybe that's one of the things that we don't understand, where we don't appreciate exactly exactly that which we're dealing. It's not well-intended people, perhaps it's people. Well, let me finish.
I think it started with it.
Well, maybe. I mean, no, and I think we all know where the road to the road to hell is paved with those good intentions. But I mean, I also think that we don't understand. There are people that this is a power game, and so this is about setting up a system that confers benefits and imposes costs based on certain criteria, and they're executing this system, and they will protect those who are part of the system, just like any other quote unquote good old boys network. So Claudine Gay's plagiarism is duplicative language or inadequate citations. It is not an academic offense. It gets redefined to be something that it isn't, because there's this sort of idea, well, there's a standard here, plagiarism, so we have to recast it as something else. But the point is we will rally around the good old boys and girls in this new system that we've created, and it is for us and by us. And maybe that's what people don't appreciate, that no, everybody's trying to get to the same place. It's one of those things. And no, not everybody is trying to get to the same place, I think.
Well, I think you've hit a lot of it. I wouldn't agree with everything you said, but I think the point is they have become the system. The universities are now literally have spent more money hiring this infrastructure, this bureaucracy called diversity, equity, inclusion, that has produced this kind of totalitarian environment. It's not even the faculty. The faculty are afraid to speak up. In order to, as I say, in order to be hired in many universities, you have to produce a statement showing how you were actively, in your research, you
Right.
have always actively been anti-racist. Imagine a mathematician or a string theorist working on 11 dimensions, and their life, they've basically been working in their books, but they couldn't get hired. In University of California, Berkeley, on a search for biology professors, they had this loyalty statement that you basically had to write about how you were actively anti-racist. And the diversity, equity, inclusion bureaucracy read those statements before they allowed any of the applications to pass the biology department. 76% of those people were excluded from consideration as professors of biology on the basis of this bureaucracy, this bureaucratic group that filtered them out, not on the basis of their merit in biology, but on the basis of their ideological adherence to the notions of this particular group. And universities across the country have spent hundreds of millions of dollars building up that infrastructure, and that's the problem, because that infrastructure has become the system. And of course, what academia should be based on is merit. And you're seeing examples left, right, and center. And Claudine Gay may be one example. I wasn't on the selection committee, but if you look externally, it doesn't appear as if her hire was based on merit, and that's certainly the appearance of the situation. And that when you move away from that, you attack the very heart of academia, which is really based on the quality of your work, and shouldn't be based on anything else. And if you're a biologist, you shouldn't have to show that you agree with the ideological principles of some diversity, equity, inclusion officer who was brought up on critical race theory.
Right. I mean, I think that's right. I think this is what it all boils down to. One group is pushing a system that is predicated on identity, and the other is pushing a system that is predicated on merit, and the two are incongruous. They cannot coexist. And so the choice needs to be presented perhaps in starker terms. And this is why so many men and women of the left in academia are on the outside looking in, because they may be of the left, but they came up in a different environment. They believe different things about what the academy should be, as you were describing. And so they're frozen out, too. I mean, this identity group are neo-Jacobins. They will kill their own as necessary, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and that's happening. And you're right. And my politics have traditionally been, over time, one would say, I think, on the left. Yet I write in the Wall Street Journal because that's the place where I can talk about these things. And I think you're seeing classical liberalism, which is what most people of my generation who are sort of leaning on the left are based on. They're classical principles of the Enlightenment and liberal thought, open free speech. Those classical liberals are not being associated with what's happening now at the center of universities. And the problem is it's self-perpetuating, because if these organizations restrict the hiring to people who have already bought into
Right.
the ideological adherence, then what you see, of course, is who are they going to hire? And that's the real concern. And so you do see that the notion of classical liberalism is not what you cannot be associated with what you might call liberal arts universities around the country right now. And
So
that's a real scary thing.
No, there's no question about that. That's a dynamic, and they can't be embarrassed either. Too. I know you wrote about the Sokol affair. We had more recently that sort of 2.0 version with Boghossian and Lindsay, but it doesn't matter. They cannot be humiliated. They cannot be shamed. They march on. And so my question is, from where does the revolt come? How does this get resized on campus?
Well, that is the I used to say $64,000 question, but $64,000 isn't so much anymore. One hoped, many of us thought that this affair of, say, Claudine Gay would put in stark contrast the hypocrisy that is happening at universities. That this university president says, yeah, it's okay to say you're going to kill all Jews, but you better not have a meeting when you're going to say that sex is binary. You better and so we thought that might be a defining moment. It certainly awakened a lot of people, but I think ultimately what's going to have to happen is you're going to have to see this internal. Enough faculty are going to have to be fed up that they start to en masse revolt against this situation, and individual faculty are mostly afraid. They just keep their heads under the radar and try and do their work, and it's hard to know where it's going to go unless there are more episodes like this that expose that bureaucracy, embarrass universities, and potentially, as you're seeing in the case of Harvard and a few other universities, major donors begin to question that, and that's another situation. When major donors begin to say, we have a problem with this, you're going to see universities start to act. And I think that's part of the reason universities have jumped on this social justice bandwagon, because by virtue signaling, by saying words that sound good, diversity, equity, inclusion, they sound like good words, they could try and virtue signal and appear to be in front of the of the movement and try and court students and parents. Ultimately, when they're embarrassing themselves and students stop applying and donors stop giving money, then you'll see, I think, universities begin to respond.
Lawrence Krauss, theoretical physicist, president of the Origins Project Foundation, author of The Edge of Knowledge, Unsolved Mysteries of the Cosmos. Professor Krauss, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks. You take care. Have a good day.
You too, and he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
50 years of precision tooling. Now that's a lot of job shop work and custom parts. And it's why Bruscher Machining is the go-to CNC turning and machining company in Chicagoland. If you have a custom project, whether it's a single prototype or a short-run production of a few thousand pieces, give them a call today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661. Or visit BruscherMachining.com. That's BRUCHER Machining.com. They also provide heat treating, balancing, plating, and surface coating, welding, and fabrication, plus project management. Bruscher Machining guarantees to consistently deliver high-quality parts and solutions on time for reasonable prices. Yeah, everyone says that, but the proof is in the tooling. Stop by to meet their team of seasoned pros and tour the facility located in West Chicago. To learn more about how CNC machining can turn your tough project into an operational reality, contact Bruscher Machining today for your free custom quote, 630-876-1661.
Hi, this is Randy Donnelly from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois, with my current want list for upcoming auctions. Guns and military items are always at the top of my list, but I have buyers for vintage automobiles and motorcycles, old gas pumps and automotive signs. Do you have pinball machines and coin-operated games like slot machines, jukeboxes? How about Coke machines and soda machines? Also, neon signs, antique phonographs and music boxes, old toys, especially science fiction and Star Wars. Cowboy and Native American collections like barbershop, ice cream parlor, and saloon items. We'll take one item or an entire collection. We sell it all. Call me before you sell your items outright, because you could be leaving a fortune on the table. And you won't know until you call me at 815-923-7000 or send me an email at DonnellyAuctions.com. My job is to get you top dollar for your collections, so call me at 815-923-7000. I'm Randy Donnelly, and I'll see you at the auction.
AM 560. The Answer.
Coming up at 8:38, when Governor Ron DeSantis signed into law legislation last year that would require employers to use E-Verify to check new hires' legal status, to that invalidated out-of-state driver's licenses given to people in this country illegally and so forth. A lot of dire predictions about what that would mean for Florida. Well, where are we almost a year later? We'll review that with Dave Seminara at 8:38, but now we check the news with Mike Scott.
Dan, thank you. 8:32 is our time. Sunshine and 28 degrees. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas acknowledges the U.S. immigration system is broken, but says it is up to Congress to pass legislation to get it fixed. Mayorkas spoke on NBC's Meet the Press. Later, Republican Congressman James Comer joined Fox and says the GOP should have enough votes as soon as this week to impeach Mayorkas.
I believe that Scalise will return this week, and it's my understanding that's on the agenda, so hopefully we'll get that job done and finally start to hold someone in this administration accountable for what's going on at the southern border.
This comes after DHS Secretary Mayorkas narrowly survived the first impeachment vote. A new poll shows most Americans feel President Biden is too old to serve in office. Fox's Kevin Uretsky with details.
President Biden reacted angrily to the description, saying there's nothing wrong with his memory. However, Republicans claim the reports simply confirm what many already know. Arkansas Senator Tom Cotton on Fox News Sunday talking about the classified documents found in the president's possession.
President Biden's memory is failing, not just now, but 7 years ago when he couldn't remember when he talked to his ghostwriter about whether his material was classified.
On ABC's This Week, Democratic Delaware Senator Chris Coons said the president is sharp and that all politicians make public mistakes.
Speaker Johnson of the House just confused Iran and Israel. He said, we are beginning to send aid to Iran. Donald Trump confused Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
Kansas City officially a dynasty? Maybe, after becoming back-to-back Super Bowl champions last night. Head coach Andy Reid.
Man, I don't know, but I'm going to celebrate it with these people right here, man. Hey, on 3, 1, 2, 3. How about those Chiefs?
Chiefs over San Francisco 25-22 at Super Bowl 58. After refusing to take responsibility for any action at trial, Mike Madigan's ex-chief of staff faces sentencing today. Federal prosecutors say Tim Mapes chose to willfully obstruct the government's investigation. He could be sentenced to as much as 5 years in prison. Dozens of Indiana National Guard members are heading for the southern border with Mexico. Governor Eric Holcomb announcing that 50 Indiana National Guard soldiers will spend 10 months with the Texas National Guard. Bulls visit the Hawks later on tonight, while the Blackhawks host Vancouver tomorrow. The News is a service of the AM 560 store. Order T-shirts, hoodies, and more from your favorite AM 560 brands, including Proft University at 560theanswer.com/store. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Charlie Kirk sees strategic maneuvers on the border bill.
McConnell is now, he heard and saw the backlash, or at least his staff did. It was so overwhelming. And it wasn't just us, on television, op-eds, even center-right voices. So don't be surprised if Senate Republicans volley back a much more aggressive border bill that will just die and say that it was the Democrats' fault.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers. Not available in all states.
Relief Factor. Pain relief that's natural. Pain relief that works. And pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans who are taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. ReliefFactor.com, ReliefFactor.com. Be the next success story.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I like your product. Your product is great. I'm 75, and it works well for me.
Yeah, I'm 70 years old, and it's really made a difference. It feels good.
Oh, I just feel better. I can tell the difference.
I feel like a teenager because I walk 2 miles every day, me and my husband. I mean, you can't go wrong with this product, I tell you.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
As a business owner, do you have a strategy for exiting your business? Most business owners don't. Studies done by the Exit Planning Institute show 75% of business owners who don't have an exit plan are dissatisfied with their exit, and 80% of businesses put to market never sell. Total Clarity Wealth Management understands the hesitation to discuss exiting. Will customers leave? Will competitors take advantage? Will key employees leave? That's why they offer confidential planning. Contact Anne-Marie at Total Clarity Wealth Management. Discover what the financial foundation should be to pursue an exit that is satisfying. At some point, you are going to leave your business. Will it be on your terms? Total Clarity can show you the way to financial readiness and keep you on track. Anne-Marie is a certified exit planning advisor. Visit TotalClarityBusiness.com. That's TotalClarityBusiness.com. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Total Clarity Wealth Management, Inc., a registered investment advisor and separate entity from LPL Financial.
8:39. Let's check the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and we'll start on the Kennedy. 35 and building right now. O'Hare into the Burn Circle interchange. Ike in 38, 390 to the old post office. Stevenson 34 from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Due to an earlier accident, the locals on the Dan Ryan inbound are all jammed up between 43rd and Canalport. 25 minutes, 95th into the Burn Circle. Chicago's morning answer continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast in our QC Kinetics Weather Center. Sunny and 45 today. Clear and 29 overnight. Clouds and sunshine 39 tomorrow. 28 right now at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's morning answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning. Dan and Amy is back tomorrow. Last year, Governor Ron DeSantis signed legislation into a law that's required, among other things, out-of-state driver's licenses given to illegal immigrants be invalidated. Required hospitals in Florida to quantify uncompensated care given to people in this country illegally. And compel lawyers with at least 25 employees to use E-Verify to check new hires' legal status before hiring them. You may remember the hue and cry last spring about this was going to, not only was it inhumane and un-American and xenophobic and all of those other things, it also was going to decimate Florida's economy. Always interesting when the left is worried about the prospects for someone they otherwise disagree with. Tucker Carlson's going to ruin his credibility by sitting down with Vlad Putin. Okay, well, isn't that what you want? Florida is going to decimate its economy if Ron DeSantis signs this law. Well, isn't that what you want, to stick it to DeSantis and all those red state denizens? Yeah. Well, it turns out that those predictions, not exactly on the money. Surprise, surprise. For more on this, pleased to be joined by Dave Seminara, former diplomat, author of Footsteps of Federer and Mad Travelers, A Tale of Wanderlust, Greed, and the Quest to Reach the Ends of the Earth. Dave, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Dan, thanks for having me.
So Florida was really going to hamstring itself. The economic vitality of Florida, much talked about under Governor DeSantis, that was going to go away with this legislation codified into law. And what's occurred in the last almost a year instead?
The economy has continued to grow. Surprisingly, we were told there was going to be a huge worker shortage here. Some people were even predicting there to be food shortages. I think that that some liberals were hoping there'd be food shortages here in Florida. Would not have been fun for them. That did not transpire. Surprisingly, the unemployment rate even went up slightly. Right, we were supposed to have this, huge shortage of workers and stuff. That didn't happen. Prices were supposed to go up. Prices were supposed to skyrocket, specifically for food. That did not happen. Even before the law went into effect in July of last year, we were told that the media hyped this truckers boycott hugely. They were really into this thing. There were probably, I don't know, in reality, maybe a dozen truckers somewhere online who were saying, oh, we're going to organize this massive boycott when this law goes into effect. We are not going to bring any groceries or products or essential medicines or things like that to the state of Florida. That did not materialize at all. In essence, everything they predicted, essentially the opposite happened. In the third quarter of last year, after the law went into effect, I think our GDP growth rate as a state was the 7th best in the country. So things are basically just fine. I think, in essence, the only thing wrong with the law is that it didn't go far enough. And we still have a lot of illegal immigrants working here in Florida because, as you just pointed out, it only applied to the E-Verify portion of it only applied to new hires, and it only applied to companies that have 25 employees or more. So even here in Florida, where we have lots of Republicans, there's still plenty of Republicans around who are beholden to business interests. And if you want to get legislation passed here, you can't make it quite that tough, can you?
No, and I know this is a particular focus of the big guys right now per his pre-Super Bowl message, but I haven't noticed at the Publix and grocery stores the shrinkflation that's supposedly afflicting the Western world too, as big grocery is really sticking it to the little guy, according to what Joe Biden was telling us.
Yeah, I mean, really, whenever immigration reform is proposed in Congress, immediately the left defaults to food and agriculture. It's their stugging. Who will pick the crops? Even George W. Bush. I don't know if you remember this, but who will pick the cotton? He said in a famous speech. I don't know if it was in Davos or in Dubai or someplace like that.
Right. Yeah.
He gave a famous "Who will pick the cotton" speech. George W. Bush. And you hear this all the time, but it's entirely fraudulent because farmers have this visa called the H-2A visa, which, unlike most of the other guest worker visas, is numerically unlimited. So they have the ability to bring in as many foreign guest workers as they want legally. However, that program comes with a lot of oversight that they do not like. They need to provide accommodation. They need to have government bureaucrats, inspecting their facilities, inspecting their dormitories, and so on and so forth. And they have to meet prevailing wages and so on and so forth. And they don't like that. So, it's really a false argument, but that's the one that the left relies on.
Right. No, it's a good point. I mean, one, it also speaks to the this isn't dogmatic, but I mean, you can think through these things and make determinations in terms of the sort of immigration policies that make sense and are in America's interests, and the sort of open borders policies that don't. People can distinguish between these two things. That's number one. In addition to that, it also just speaks to the larger problem of having a focused conversation on this, because you get these misdirection plays that are thrown out, is like you say, who will pick the cotton, or what about the farmers? They produce the food and stuff. And it turns out that, number one, that's already being accommodated. Actually, it's not even it's not even a problem that we have to address per se. It's actually being accommodated. And number two, to the extent that there needs to be tweaks, happy to have that conversation, but we're not having any conversation about any tweaks of programs that are going along basically okay, when we have this sucking chest wound over here that nobody wants to discuss.
No, exactly. It'll be interesting, too, to see what happens, in the next several months of the campaign, too, because we had this bill that came out in the Senate, this immigration border bill, 370 pages worth of a lot of details that I chose not to immerse myself in. I immersed myself in a bit of it, but I didn't go through the entire thing. But, we'll just have to see what happens. I think, though, that E-Verify is something that's very popular with Americans, and I think, even an increasing number of independents and Democrats. And so I don't think this thing can be stopped. I think that even the left now is starting to realize that they're going to lose this election if they don't move quickly to the right on immigration. I think Biden has finally gotten that message. I mean, of course, he's not going to move anywhere near in the direction we would like him to, but you do see them inching towards the center here. I was amazed that they were even willing to take on asylum and to make it tougher to claim asylum in that Senate border deal. Not that it was a good one, but it was something. It's like, okay, all right, there's something here.
Well, they have to move gingerly because, let's turn it over to Chris Murphy, the senator from Connecticut. He was on MSNBC with Rachel Maddow doppelganger Chris Hayes, and he conceded something that you're not supposed to say out loud.
The negotiation didn't have a path to citizenship. It was entirely on their terms in order to get Ukraine funding, right?
Well, I mean, Chris, that's been a failed play for 20 years. So you are right that has been the Democratic strategy for 30 years, maybe. And it has failed to deliver for the people we care about most, the undocumented Americans that are in this country.
The people we care about most, Dave. Undocumented Americans. Well, if they're undocumented, then they're not Americans. But okay, the people we care about most, and also, I mean, that's the real, obviously, takeaway. The people we care about most are the people here illegally, not American citizens. But the other part of it too, that's been our approach for 30 years. Everything that we've conceded, and we've tried to concede as little as possible in terms of border security, has been to try to get as many people essentially on the voter rolls as possible.
Dan, it's a really interesting problem. I mean, it's such a global. It is the arguably the biggest global problem, not just for the United States, but for every relatively wealthy country all around the world. I like to travel. Over the Christmas holidays, we were in the Caribbean. We went to a few islands, for example, that are being overrun also by Venezuelan migrants. This isn't just an issue for the U.S., right? This is an issue in places like Aruba, in places like St. Kitts, in places all over the world. Any country that's reasonably worth living in is having this problem right now. And the left here, they're becoming increasingly isolated because I think what Rui Teixeira calls normie voters, normie Democrats, like not the far left, the squad type people, but just ordinary people who are not completely insane, but who tend to vote Democrat. Even they want a secure border. So I think that this is something the entire world is facing right now, and it's probably the one. It is really the number one slam dunk issue for Republicans, and it's something we're going to have to focus on a lot this year.
He is Dave Seminara, a former diplomat, author of Footsteps of Federer and Mad Travelers: A Tale of Wanderlust, Greed, and the Quest to Reach the Ends of the Earth. Dave, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Nice talking to you.
You too, and Dave joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Ad paid for by America First Tax Group. Attention! If you or your business is behind in filing your tax returns, or if you owe over $10,000 in back taxes to the IRS, please listen carefully. The IRS does not joke around and will not stop their collection efforts. If you're tired of the IRS letters, levies, liens, or wage garnishments and would like to get a fresh start, we can help. Due to the financial hardships in the country, the IRS is making it easier than ever to settle tax problems for those who owe more than $10,000. We can help settle your delinquent tax problems, end all collections, and may even reduce your back taxes significantly. Even if you can't afford to pay your back taxes, you can still get the help you need. We've helped thousands of taxpayers just like you, but you must call 800-852-3467 today to stop your tax problem from getting worse. The information is free and the help is real. Call 800-852-3467. That's 800-852-3467. Again, 800-852-3467.
Baby, it's cold outside, and we've got the perfect cure for those winter blues. Grab your loved ones
pajamas and settle in this evening with a relaxing jigsaw puzzle from Heart Puzzles, made right here in the Midwest. Their vast assortment includes a variety of themes. Go retro and cool with the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Revisit past trips with the National Parks Collection. Gaze at the wonders of space with the Hubble and Webb Deep Space Telescopes puzzles. Feel nostalgic with the immensely popular Boomers favorites. What's more is that a piece of every puzzle sale automatically goes to charity, so you'll be supporting their mission of giving back to veterans, funding medical research, and preserving our national parks. Order now and get 20% off by using promo code AM560. Order 2 puzzles and get free shipping and a tote bag. Order 3 puzzles and they'll even include a puzzle mat. Again, use promo code AM560. Their popular designs often sell out, so visit them today at heartpuzzles.com. That's HART puzzles.com.
Guys, if you've noticed a lack of energy, motivation, and drive, it could be low T. Be sure to schedule your health assessment with my friends at Low T Center. They offer the convenience of physician-monitored, self-inject, at-home testosterone treatments with an average payment of $150 a month cash pay, including labs and medication. If you don't live near a Low T Center, just need the convenience of at-home treatment, Low T Center makes it easy shipping treatments directly to you. Go to lowtcenter.com now to book your appointment online. That's Low T Center, reinventing men's healthcare.
Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies supplements, changing the world one life at a time.
I like your product. Your product is great. I'm 75, and it works real well for me.
Yeah, I'm 70 years old, and it's really made a difference. It feels good.
Oh, I just feel better. I can tell the difference.
I stay like a teenager because I walk 2 miles every day, me and my husband. I mean, you can't go wrong with this product, I tell you.
Start your journey with Balance of Nature supplements. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer. And for a limited time, get 35% off your first order, plus $10 off any additional sets with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Hey, business owners, are you wondering how to grow your business? Do you need cash flow and a ready source for financing? Well, Signature Bank can help. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that Signature Bank's loan decisions are made locally by a team who knows your name, cares about your business, and is invested in your success. When you need advice about your business or even have a question, Signature Bank is there to help. There are no handoffs or call centers. This is a team that wants to get to know you and your business. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. When I call, someone picks up the phone on the other end. And with Signature Bank, I can securely bank anywhere, anytime. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630. That's 773-467-5630. Or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. Signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Looking to give your home a one-of-a-kind makeover? It's time to think outside the box with Forever Remodeling. We're highly skilled to design and build kitchens, bathrooms, and basements using state-of-the-art 3D design software, customer communication software, and a dedicated project manager throughout your project. With Forever Remodeling, imagine a kitchen that's an extension of your personality, a bathroom that's a spa-like sanctuary, and a basement that's a canvas for your dreams. Reach out to us at 847-809-3355 or visit foreverremodeling.com.
Would you like a new home or $450,000 for only $100? You heard correctly. Gaelic Park Charities is excited to announce its $650,000 home or cash raffle. Hello, this is John Quinn, the voice of Irish sports and special events at Chicago Gaelic Park. On the 24th of March 2024, we're raffling off a new construction, 2-story, single-family home located in the heart of Chicago's Mount Greenwood neighborhood. This beautiful custom home has 4 bedrooms and 2.5 baths with all the modern touches. The neighborhood has excellent schools, parks and amenities, and if you're not in the market for a new home, the winner can opt for a $450,000 cash prize instead. The proceeds of each $100 ticket benefit Gaelic Park Charities, a registered 501c3 dedicated to promoting and preserving Irish heritage and culture in Chicagoland. Purchase your tickets at ChicagoGaelicParkHouseRaffle.com. That's Chicago Gaelic, Gaelic, parkhouseraffle.com.
Sick and tired of achy joints? Dread the idea of surgery? Well, you need to call QC Kinetics. Hi, it's Amy Jacobson. Listen, the state of healthcare is always changing. The old ideas like steroids, cortisone shots, surgery are no longer your only options. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is transforming lives with innovative, non-surgical, drug-free treatments that deliver lasting results. Knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain from arthritis or injury? Well, don't let this pain keep you from living your best. QC Kinetics advanced state-of-the-art treatments harness and direct your body's natural ability to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. Make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility and independence. Walk and run, play and live. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation. New locations, folks, in Crystal Lake and Gurnee. Call 312-809-5955. That's 312-809-5955. 312-809-5955.
AM 560, The Answer.
Nice cover your ass story in the Tribune over the weekend about families being ripped apart with the end of the tax scholarship program and the closure of Catholic schools, half a dozen in the state, more to come. St. Francis of Rome, St. Odilo in Berwyn, we've told you, Notre Dame Academy in Belleville, downstate, St. Anna, Nashville, St. Paul the Apostle, and St. Jude in Joliet. They're going to consolidate into a single school. Greg Richmond, who's the head of the schools for the Archdiocese. It's the schools who serve the greatest number of low-income students who are now going to get the biggest hit. Not a single middle-income or upper-income family lost a scholarship because they're not eligible for them. Only low-income families had the rug pulled out from under them. Yeah, well, you saw it coming. And maybe you and your boss there at Cardinal Supit should have done something about it. Should have expended all the political capital that you had. Should have made this a hill to die on. Maybe should have issued a clarion call to Big Shoulders and all these other sort of passive participants in promoting school choice when asked, as opposed to leading a charge. Maybe you should have imposed a cost, and all of the assembled strategic allies in the school choice movement should have imposed a cost on Governor Jellybelly and that street criminal Chris Welch, the speaker. But you didn't do any of that now. You didn't do any of that then, did you now? And so here we go. Meanwhile, billions for people in this country, in this state in particular, in this country illegally. Billions. Blank checks. That's where it's at in Illinois. All right, Amy's back tomorrow. Signing off for today. Turn it over to Mike Scott for the news.
The very latest from Washington with Fox News.